unless you absolutely have to be out there. If you do need to drive somewhere, you should be going as slow as the conditions warrant. Even if it looks bare, it probably isn't. It'll be slick.
People have to remember that it's been such a mild winter, you don't think, oh, it's time for the big snowstorm.
Winter storm Ember hammering the northeast right now with a wintry mix, heavy snow, blustery winds. We thank you so much for staying with us here for our special live coverage as we track both winter storms Ember and winter storm Finn. I'm Alex Wilson.
And I'm Carl Parker, and for millions of people, this is the first significant snowfall in years, and we're talking about maybe as much as a foot of snow in the parts of New England later tonight and early tomorrow. Alex?
Yeah, I want to get out to our crew of field reporters, including Paul Goodloe. He is in Fishkill, New York right now. Paul, a lot of areas in New York have been waiting in snow, some luckier than others. Unfortunately, the most populated spot of New York going to miss out. But Fishkill, you've got some nice snow coming down.
We got some snow the last hour and a half or so, but I tell you what, you mentioned that heavy snow. Wow, New York City, it came down hard and fast around 4 o'clock. That's Mother Nature's going, psych. Yeah, now we're seeing some light snow. You're about to move to rain here. We've been telling you it's going to look ferocious and great. Get your Instagram photos on because it's not going to last long. They are in the midst of seeing some rain move in with that warmer air. Here, we're about 60 miles north of Manhattan. And we just changed over to snow. But the difference is our temperatures have been hovering right around freezing, and much of the day they were below freezing. So you see around me the snow is starting to stick here, and it's been about an hour. This is not the heaviest snow we're going to see. We'll see those bands of heavier snow come through, and it can look like it looked like in Central Park a couple hours ago. We could have snowfall rates of 1 inch an hour. It might not snow the entire hour at that rate, but that's how intense some of these bands are. We saw that earlier in Harrisburg and parts of now eastern, northeastern PA. That's now coming here across the Hudson Valley, but it's not going to stop here. It keeps moving eastward as well. So we're not done with the more intense snow bands. We're just getting into it. As we're saying, now's the time. Earlier it was to prepare. This morning we were across the Hudson River, which is maybe 8 miles to the west of me into Orange County, and there too they were trying to get things prepared because this is the first snowstorm we've had in this part of New York in almost 2 years. I talked to the Office of Emergency Management in Orange County earlier today, and he was asking people to prepare.
Don't go out if you don't have to, but if you do, we recommend you check, the weather, obviously. Look at the Weather Channel, the local news. Also, our Facebook site in the social media for Orange County Emergency Management is a great place to get updated.
Yeah, that's Alan Mack there. He was telling me it's been, again, almost 2 years. They've got plenty of road salt because they haven't used it in quite some time. And something like road salt doesn't expire, so they got plenty of salt to treat the roads here. And by the way, it's the State Highway Department that treats Interstate 84 that runs through both of these towns, Fishkill and across the Newburgh Beacon Bridge and then onto Orange County. And by the way, that same interstate keeps going east of here, eventually gets you into Connecticut, and this same highway interstate goes into Hartford, Connecticut. And yes, Winter Storm Ember is going to move that way as well. So let's say good evening to our Chris Bruin. And Chris, you got the cold air, you don't have the snow just yet there in Hartford.
Yeah, not yet. It is so close though, Paul. And we are in downtown. I love showing everybody, a blank slate because you can really see the intensity of how quickly things can change in just an hour's time. We're going to watch the snow come in within the next 30 minutes, and it's going to start light, but then rapidly increase through the evening. And we're going to get between that 1 to 2 inch per hour snowfall rate. So the bulk of the snow is going to happen later this evening and throughout the overnight, and then I think things will kind of calm down. But look at the surge of blue headed up into New England. This is the first real snowstorm we've had this entire winter so far. Last year we had some snow, but only about half of what we get for our annual average. And many people here, it's been a long time since we've had a good solid snowstorm. That's going to change tonight. And most folks that I have talked to are very excited about the incoming snow. So snow already coming in across southwest Connecticut, almost here in Hartford. The edge is about 10 miles to our south, so it won't be long. Snowfall rates really ramp up by the time we head to about 9, 10, 11 o'clock. By midnight, heavier snowfall. Notice that wintry mix is starting to encompass much of the coastal areas down along I-95, but we stay pretty much snow the entire time. We may get into more of a wetter snow as we go into the early morning hours, and then throughout Sunday, we may have a lull early on, but we're not done. We're going to get cold air to come back, and even at the coastal areas, you're going to switch back over to snow as temperatures plummet down into the 20s, and we may get another boost to heavier snowfall tomorrow late morning, early afternoon. The bulk of the snow arriving overnight and into the early morning, and then another 2-3 inches possible throughout the afternoon tomorrow. The snow tomorrow will be much drier in the afternoon, Paul, before things clear on out. We get one dry day, Paul, and then it's a whole different story as we go into next week. By Tuesday, we're talking heavy rain, mid-50s, and upwards of 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. So we still have big problems even after our winter storm is done.
Yeah, very powerful and much warmer storm coming in Tuesday and Wednesday. Chris, thank you so much. Let's take a look at the radar, and here's what Chris is talking about. So this is what we call the warm conveyor belt right there. That is delivering moisture from the Atlantic Ocean and up into the storm. And so just north of that is where you've got enough cold air at the surface is where the snowfall rates are heavier. And so right now the snowfall rates are not terribly heavy in Connecticut, but as that conveyor continues to lift up, translate up into the Northeast, we're going to see the snowfall rates increasing overnight tonight, southern New England and southeastern New York. Right now it's wet weather in Baltimore at 39. We've got some showers in Salisbury. It's just about ready to wind down there. We have had some pockets of heavy rain in southern Jersey and also in Delaware. Then farther north, you've got now rain in Harrisburg after getting 6 inches of snow. We've got moderate snow in Scranton. We also have moderate snow in Hazleton. Again, right in that area, you see those darker colors there, probably getting some heavier snows along that 78 corridor from north of Allentown and up into northern parts of New Jersey, getting some freezing rain also in Altoona right now. There you see the report, Harrisburg with 6 inches, but the rain coming down now, and so a lot of that snow is going to be going away with that rain moving in. Here farther north, we've got snow in Central Park and also in Newburgh. Mount Pocono, it's just beginning to moisten up in southern New England, so a lot of the stations here just reporting cloudy skies, even where you see some returns on the radar, but that will change. We expect that the snow is going to get heavier, and then it's going to really start coming down in earnest later tonight. There again is that conveyor belt that I talked about moving up here into the tri-state area, so that's where the heavier snow is going to be later this evening. Then we go into the very early morning hours. There's our conveyor coming up into southern New England. So we've still got heavy snow in the parts of Rhode Island and Connecticut and also into Massachusetts, starting to get into New Hampshire late tonight. And then the whole thing does begin to kind of lift up and stretch out as it moves towards the Maritimes, but there's an upper level system that's going to be coming through behind that. So that upper level system is going to give us some lingering light snow into tomorrow. It's not going to be the heavier snow that we're seeing tonight, but snow continuing tomorrow for much of the Northeast as a result. So the heaviest of snow going forward, centered here in upstate New York as well as New England, talking about some pockets of 8 to 12 inches there. Notice the bifurcation in the Boston metro area, quite a bit more on the north and west side of town and over and out to Worcester, 495, generally north and west of 495. Not nearly the same amount of snow on the South Shore, and certainly not on the Cape, where it's primarily going to be rain. Heavy snow also for much of New Hampshire and southern parts of Maine. Alex, over to you.
All right, and then travel concerns, obviously, for places like Boston, Portland moving forward. Right now, things are okay at a lot of the airports. We see a lot of green on the map. That's good news, I think, because as a lot of our major metro airports from D.C. to Philly up towards the New York City area have remained in the rain. I mean, New York City, you've seen some wet snow, but manageable at Newark, LaGuardia, and JFK. Syracuse right now also okay despite the moderate snow. Now, road conditions, that's a different ball game because we've got moderate snow, so visibilities are going to be low now, especially that it's post-sunset. It's dark, it's tough to see, and with temperatures cold in a lot of these locations, especially the lesser used roadways, they're going to get covered. There have been some areas where we've also seen freezing rain. Those could get slick very quickly, especially bridges and overpasses. Now into tonight, winds gusting 35, 40, 50 miles an hour. That could lead to some isolated power outages as well. So be aware of that. And I just go ahead and prepare, right? It's always good to have the flashlight around. So you need it. You've got it. If you don't have it, that's like the best way to guarantee you're going to get a power outage because you're like, awesome. I have no idea where the flashlight is, and I don't think we have any batteries. Right now, Troy Hills, Edison, New Jersey. You guys are getting in on the moderate snow. Still moderate snow for New York, but look at that rain snow line. It is creeping ever so close to you. Bridgeport, you've got a moderate snowfall report. Hempstead as well, but gosh, Hempstead, you're about to change over to rain. We've got that in places like Long Branch with gusty winds being reported there in coastal Jersey. Now, moving through the next several hours, New York, you're in the rain. Yonkers, you're in the rain. Greenwich, Connecticut, you're in the rain. Same for Bridgeport. So I-95, we switch over to rain across parts of New York and Connecticut. Long Island, fully in the rain into tomorrow morning. Now, mid to late morning tomorrow, some cold air comes in on the backside of this system. That could change us back over to a mix of rain and snow, or even all snow. But at that point, the moisture is really on the decrease, moving out. And so there's not going to be much to speak for in the way of accumulation. In fact, New York, not going to see any accumulation beyond this point. Through tomorrow, an inch maybe there on 95 into parts of North Jersey and north areas into interior sections of upstate New York, of Connecticut. That's where we'll see the 5 to 8+ inch totals. Hartford, you're in the snow for the foreseeable future. In fact, throughout the rest of the event, you're in the snow. New London, New Haven, campus of Yale, it's a cold rain coming down. Providence, you're going to see the rain-snow mix, even some rain work in there. Coastal sections of Massachusetts out there on the Cape, you guys have the rain as well. We end by tomorrow afternoon, I think, across southern New England, just a few snow showers. But look at Hartford. Some of these accumulations could exceed 8 inches because of all that snow. So, Carl, it's truly the haves and the have-nots with Ember.
No question, and we're going to be looking at a very different storm moving in Tuesday and Wednesday. It's going to be a more powerful storm, and it's going to be a much warmer storm as compared to what's going on right now. There you see the snow across parts of Pennsylvania and New York. A lot of these areas are going to be in for heavy rain come Tuesday and Wednesday, and where there is still snow on the ground, there's all kinds of moisture, and so that is going to add to the flood concerns that we'll be looking at Tuesday and Wednesday. Here's the model forecast for Tuesday. Low pressure center around the middle Mississippi Valley Tuesday early in the morning. Plenty of moisture being drawn into the storm across the Gulf of Mexico. Then this arc of rain is going to come up across Georgia and around that 85 corridor by the middle of the day on Tuesday. A lot of wind and snow on the backside of the system. Could be some blizzard conditions for parts of the Midwest. Then we go into Tuesday afternoon. Heavy rain continues to move up into the Carolinas, into Virginia, and then gets farther north here up into New York. Now, there's already a lot of moisture in the ground in a lot of the Northeast, especially in northern Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, and that means the flash flood guidance is very low. It's not going to take a lot of rain to cause problems. We could get 2 to 3 inches or more of rain out of this, and that's going to really start in earnest late on Tuesday through the overnight Tuesday into Wednesday morning. That's when the heaviest of rain is going to come down with, by the way, a lot of wind. You see all these lines in there. When they're very tightly packed like that, you've got a big change in pressure over a relatively short distance, and that usually means you get a lot of wind, unless there's terrain involved. So certainly there's going to be quite a bit of wind with the system. Heavy rain continuing around the tri-state area, even in the early morning hours. So it could be really rough by the time we get into Wednesday morning for parts of the Northeast. There you see the heavy rain potential in our modeling there around New York. Another model showing you the same thing. So again, 2 to 3 inches potentially, maybe more than that. Right now, there's a likely area for flash flooding in northern parts of New Jersey, southeastern New York, but that is probably going to expand as we get closer to the event. Again, you've already got a lot of moisture in the ground right now. You've got rain and snow coming down now, and then this next storm, which is going to be very warm and very wet. Alex.
Let's take you to the areas that are not warm nor wet. They are getting in on the wintry side of Winter Storm Finn. Right now, all is calm in St. Louis and Chicago. Temps in the mid to upper 30s for these metro areas. And Winter Storm Finn set to bring you a blast of winter. How much snow? It'll vary city to city, and wind will also be an issue. Gosh, we could be looking at blizzard conditions into parts of the middle of the country. Chicago, snow moves in Monday night. It continues Tuesday and Tuesday night. By Wednesday, we're dry, but we are cloudy and we are cold. So snow that falls, not going to go anywhere on Wednesday. What do we know about this storm? It's bringing heavy snow and wind to the west through tomorrow. So parts of the Four Corners, sections of the plains get in on the storm as we move through the end of the weekend and early part of next week. And as this system works into that part of the country, it's going to strengthen. It's going to be a big boy. And then snow and wind expected for the Midwest by early week. A powerhouse system with blizzard warnings possible for parts of the country. So we could be looking at some really significant impacts, especially when it comes to travel. There's Finn strengthening, moving into the plains, jetting up around the Great Lakes. So it's going to be a different part of the country that gets the snow. As Carl mentioned, this is not snow for the Northeast. Instead, this is heavy rain for the Northeast. It's heavy snow, though, gusty winds for parts of the plains, for parts of the Midwest, for parts of the upper Great Lakes. We could see blizzard warnings issued. And again, remember, down towards the south, the I-10 corridor, we'll be looking at a significant severe threat. We're going to break that down for you in just a minute. Right now, the alerts that are in effect, winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories across the west. Into the plains, we've got the winter storm watches. Those will be changed over soon. We are tracking our winter storms. We've got our team out there. More to come, by the way, as we watch Finn, too. Massachusetts down to Virginia for Ember this weekend.
Welcome back to the Weather Channel. Meteorologist Paul Goodloe live in Fishkill, New York, where it's been snowing for almost an hour and a half or so. And we did our best to scramble up the little snow that has fallen and perhaps made our first snowball in Fishkill in maybe 2 years or so. There'll probably be a lot more as we head on through today, because this is just beginning of the snowy part of Winter Storm Ember. We are a stone's throw from Interstate 84, which runs from Pennsylvania through New York into Connecticut, and that's going to become the beginning line of a decent amount of snow, maybe 6 to 12 inches. It also stretches well north of here. We've changed over to snow for a while in Albany, and then pushing eastward into Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, New Hampshire, and eventually into areas of New England, especially Maine. Portland could see 6 to 12 inches of snow there. New York City, you started strong with some heavy snow, and now we're starting to see that rain get closer and closer. That snow is tapering off. Even here in Dutchess County, in Fishkill, lower Hudson Valley, we could see a little intrusion of some milder air, some of that rain, so we could be mixing in with some sleet. That might kind of damper down some of our snow totals, but we're still expecting the majority of this event to be in a solid layer of cold air to give us all this snow. Our first sizable snow in a couple of years. So the good news is all the local towns and villages, they've got plenty of salt from the last 2 years because they've never really had to spread that much, certainly over the last year. Very minor snow events. This is the first big one they've seen in 6 to almost 700 days across many towns here in the area. The I-95 corridor, say New York southward, not your storm this time. But even the next storm, Carl, we're watching, we're also concerned here because we had some heavy rain and some flooding this past summer. West Point is across the river in Orange County, Carl, and they had major flooding there. They're concerned, not with this one, but our next one with maybe 2 or 3 inches coming our way in just a couple of days.
Yeah, the next storm's going to be a lot wetter, a lot warmer than the one that's coming through right now. So, yes, there's going to be a serious flood threat along with that. Paul, thank you so much. And let's take a look at where we are right now. So we've got a lot of moisture now moving up through New Jersey and coming into parts of New York as well, Pennsylvania. There's the back end of the storm, the sort of underside of the storm right there. And so things are about ready to wind down in D.C. and across the Delmarva as well. We've had some heavier rain in southern parts of New Jersey, central New Jersey. We've had some freezing rain that's made its way up into Harrisburg. Got 6 inches of snow in Harrisburg and now changing over to rain there. The rain is crawling up into the Lehigh Valley as we speak, but we've got some heavier snowfall rates just north of that, especially here in northeast Pennsylvania. Wilkes-Barre reporting some moderate snow right now. We've had some moderate snow around Mount Pocono as well. Then into the New York City metro area, you notice snow coming down here to the north. Generally, most of the reports here are light snow. It looks like we might be getting into some more moderate snow in northern parts of New Jersey. We're not going to see that rain snow line move that much through the overnight tonight. So many of the areas where it's snowing right now in southern New England will be snowing through the rest of the event. It's all very, very light. In fact, not even making it to the ground along the leading edge of that yet. But that's going to change rather dramatically tonight as we watch that big arc, that warm conveyor belt come up and into this area. The heavier snow will set up there in southern New England as well as into southeast New York. Snowfall rates increasing going through late tonight and in the overnight. Then as we go into 1 o'clock in the morning, snowfall rates increasing around the Boston metro area. The heaviest of snow, Alex, will be generally north and west of the city.
Yeah, so we watch travel in parts of New England, especially tomorrow morning through midday. Monday, bringing severe weather to parts of the Gulf Coast. We're looking at Houston and New Orleans right now, both cities in the 50s. Barely for Houston. You're around 60 degrees. Warmth, moisture, and a developing, very potent storm system will help to provide a significant severe threat to start the week along the Gulf Coast. Very heavy rain as well. But there's Monday's threat zone. Victoria all the way over to Apalachicola in Florida. Those would be the communities at greatest risk of the severe weather. So really focused right along I-10. But some major metros, New Orleans, Biloxi, over towards Pensacola. Got to watch all these areas. Southeast surface winds near our warm front. Of course, plenty of Gulf of Mexico moisture to work with. So Winter Storm Finn getting wound up here. Those southeast winds at the surface change to a southwesterly direction aloft. So now you've got that turning of winds with height that could promote rotating thunderstorms, those that produce hail, but especially tornadoes. Always watch those warm fronts. We tend to get a little extra spin in those areas. Strong mid-level winds aloft will also help to increase our damaging wind threat. So potent winds could lead to some structural damage or tree damage across the region. We'll start Monday morning with things really getting going, though, during the midday hours through the afternoon and evening. In addition to the thunderstorms, heavy rain potential is there. That's going to lead to travel problems, not just along I-10, but all across the south central and southeastern U.S. all the way through Tuesday morning. So we'll watch on Tuesday for that damaging wind, severe weather threat to slide eastward.
The power of the Weather Channel, now available to everyone.
This is epic!
Trusted live coverage when it matters most is now yours to stream with the Weather Channel TV app. Real-time radar, maps that let you track all the action, and so much more. Available now on these platforms. Go to streamtwc.com to start your free 7-day trial.
Video to share with you. Severe weather today across parts of South Florida. This is a tornado that moved through the Fort Lauderdale metro area a little over an hour ago at this point. Some reports of, well, there's damage because we know we saw some power flashes. We're going to get the update from the National Weather Service once they go out and take a look, but you can very clearly make out that funnel circulation down to the ground. And we also saw the debris being picked up by our radar here. So before we got this video, already a fair bit of certainty that we had a tornado in progress. And sure enough, again, you can see once that funnel makes it over halfway to the ground there, you can see some flashes. So that circulation hitting something in Metro Fort Lauderdale. Welcome back into our special coverage. We got a lot going on. We got severe weather in Florida. Carl, we got heavy snow in the Northeast. We've got coastal issues. We've got big winds. We've got freezing rain. And then we've got another storm waiting in the wings.
Yeah, you know, it's wild though. You can go for weeks and not have a whole lot of
Right.
weather, and then suddenly they all come at once. And the next storm that comes in is going to be a very powerful storm with a lot of heavy rain falling in areas where there is now snow on the ground, which means we're going to be looking at a significant flood threat for a lot of the East Coast, and then also potentially a blizzard on the backside of that storm.
No rest for the weary. This week is like the Elmo meme with the fire behind it. I mean, there's just too much going on. Population under alerts. We've got a winter storm warning for over 22 million people, Carl. The blizzard warning right now, 0, but we could see that out of Finn.
No question about that, and you're looking at a really significant event here in the next couple of storms. And here's what we know right now. Airlines are warning people to prepare for flight delays and cancellations. Amtrak also modifying its schedule due to snowy conditions, and about 1,600 plows have been deployed in New York. And so we're well underway here into the winter season in the Northeast.
All right, well, we've got one of our biggest snow lovers here at the Weather Channel out there monitoring the situation, and he's in a good spot. Chris Bruin, our meteorologist in Hartford, Connecticut. Chris, not looking crazy snowy right now, but you got to be psyched.
Well, I'm so stoked. First of all, this is my first snowstorm this season, and most folks in Connecticut's first snowstorm this winter. All right, so last year we had 24 inches of snowfall. Which is about half of what we average for a year. So we were well behind, but it never came in one big storm. We had a lot of 2-inch, snow bents, and then it didn't last for very long and melted and thawed out. And so many folks here are very excited. I want to show you around. We're waiting on those first snowflakes, but I can tell you, they're really close. It's any minute we're going to start to see the snow start to pick up, and it will quickly coat the ground in white because we've been cold, well below freezing. Last night we were in the 20. Oh, I just saw a flake. You guys see that? There's the winter storm warnings, first winter storm warnings of the season. Walking me this way, this is Pratt Street. This is a pedestrian street. And last night it was a lot busier. But I do think a lot of people are kind of staying put tonight because they know about the snow coming in, and it's going to come in quickly. Once the snow starts, we're going to see it accumulate relatively quickly, with the worst of the conditions being this evening and overnight tonight, and then another burst tomorrow late morning, early in the afternoon. So there's a look at the timing. I want to show you down the street here, and we'll walk with me this way. So this is Pratt Street, and then this is Trumbull Street, one of the main streets here in quintessential Hartford, Connecticut. All right, not a lot of folks out, and there is a Disney on Ice event. They had several shows today, so we've seen a lot of families out. There's one still currently ongoing here at the XL Center. So when they get out, you'll notice a big influx of families getting out to their car. They probably won't stay around long because by that point we do expect it to be snowing and conditions are going to deteriorate. But right now, Alex, you know what I love? I love when you have a blank slate because you can really see. I mean, we're talking about 6 to 10 inches by this time tomorrow. So that's a good storm here for central Connecticut.
That is a good storm. Obviously, we got to watch into next week when Finn brings the rain, but I think a lot of people will enjoy it in the short term, and we got to think about the issues that it could bring into next week. Chris, thanks so much. We're going to get back out to you. All right, let's take a peek at what the storm is offering up right now. We've got 1 to 2 inch per hour snowfall rates, especially there in eastern PA into parts of New Jersey, although we're also beginning to see that rain-snow mix edge a little closer to places like the Lehigh Valley. Even the I-80 corridor reporting a little freezing rain there closer to Williamsport over towards Bloomsburg and Danville. State College, light snow falling there. Binghamton, light snow. Buffalo and Albany also getting the light snow. New York, that rain-snow mix edging ever so close to you, but you're still hanging on to a few snowflakes. The roads are wet, though, so you're not going to have any travel problems out there this evening, save for the low visibility caused by the rain or the snow. But it's going to be mostly rain overnight and into tomorrow morning for New York. Philly, you're done with the precip. Lehigh Valley, State College, Harrisburg, you are as well. By lunchtime, you can see the snow really focused into parts of New England. So that's where we're going to see the heftiest of totals continue to pile up. By late Sunday into Monday, a few lingering snow showers, interior parts of the Northeast, other areas done. Then we watch the rain to come from Finn. But snow out of Ember yet to come through tomorrow. 8 to 12 inch totals for parts of New England, eastern New York. How about 3 to 5 in Scranton?
Watch the Weather Channel for continuing coverage of Winter Storm Ember. Get trusted updates on the storm on the Weather Channel and the Weather Channel TV app.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of Winter Storm Ember here on the Weather Channel. I'm meteorologist Paul Goodloe live in Fishkill, New York, which is in Dutchess County, about 60 miles north of New York City. And we've been in the snow here for almost 2 hours. This is the beginning of a pretty impactful, the most impactful snow event we've had in nearly 2 years in this part of New York. And yeah, it continues to bring us more snow. And this is not just a snow event. We had some severe weather earlier in Florida, and we're still dealing with some rain kind of sliding up the I-95 corridor. And earlier we were talking about the forecast for the Steelers going into Baltimore to play the Ravens today. If you watched that game earlier, it was miserable. They had the rain coming down like 36 degrees. Now tomorrow we're not done with impacts at NFL games in Foxborough. The New York Jets are going into Foxborough to take on the Patriots. And this is, I know, another meaningless game for both teams. It's got last and next to last. Neither is going to the playoffs. Perhaps this could be Belichick's last game as a Patriots coach. We'll see what a run he's had. But we got Winter Storm Ember not only bringing snow, we got blowing snow. So it could look like a snow globe from time to time. Interesting forecast ahead for those two teams tomorrow afternoon. But, you know, perfect weather if you're in this part of New York, parts of northeastern PA into Connecticut, to sit at home, because you shouldn't be outside, because this is just the beginning of a 6 to 12-inch snow event, which continues into Sunday. The farther kind of north and east you head from here, the longer the snow and the impactful snow will continue on your Sunday. And before we go back to the studio, Alex, I know you're a big animal lover. Do you know what the name Fishkill means?
Dead fish.
No, it doesn't. In fact, you know, years ago, PETA, the organization, wanted this town to change its name because, well, it's violence towards fish.
Yeah.
They're like, no. It's from the Dutch, which means Fish Creek. So they're like, thank you, PETA. We're going to continue with our name. There's a deeper meaning here, so it's from the Dutch.
See, now, Jordan taught us stuff 2 hours ago. You're teaching. I have so many, like, trivia, like, dinner party facts now to share. Thank you. Yeah, here I thought it was dead fish all along. I was like, they must just be, like, a big pescatarian community. But no.
Fish Creek, lots of fish there.
The more you know. Paul, thanks so much. We're going to get back to Paul. Enjoy those snowflakes. Flakes were flying yesterday in the Chicago area, too. Last night in Joliet, we had about 1/10 of an inch of snow in the Chicago area. So it wasn't around for a long time, but we've got more on the way, and it's courtesy of Winter Storm Finn right now across the west. It will continue to move through the west, especially the southwest tomorrow. Moving into the plains later tomorrow into Monday, it deepens, it intensifies. This thing's going to be a big, burly storm. Works its way through the plains and the Midwest. Blizzard conditions possible, big snow, also big rain for the Northeast, and a significant severe threat across the Gulf Coast Monday of next week as well. Water vapor imagery, here it is right now. It'll continue to dive off towards the south and east, so parts of Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado. You guys get in on the snow tonight and into tomorrow. Then this system really takes off once it gets into the southern plains. It's going to strengthen. It's going to be really wound up. And this thing is going to be large. When we look at the snow and wind side of the story, parts of the plains and Omaha, up towards Des Moines, north central, northeast Kansas, Kansas City, you're going to be in play for some big snow. Chicago, I think you're going to be looking at snow. Detroit, probably on the rain side of this one. Rain and snow into parts of Indiana, into parts of Ohio, into parts of Kentucky. You'll see the wind as well. And then I mentioned farther to the south, we've got a lot of severe weather. Widespread snow, plains to Great Lakes footprint could be as high as 5 to 8+ inches in these areas. And we've had severe weather today. We had a tornado that moved through the Fort Lauderdale metro area a little over an hour ago at this point. You can see the video coming in of that funnel, and we've seen some flashes. So that tornado leading to damage. We also saw debris picked up by our radar, but really intense scene here in the metro area. A lot of cameras, so we got a lot of views of this. And Carl, look at the intensity. When you look at these things close up, there you can actually see some debris being picked up too, but really intense circulation.
Yeah, you know, even a so-called weak tornado is still a very serious thing. And this was in the Los Olas area, and it all happened very quickly. The Weather Service issued a tornado warning at 5:45, and this happened right about 6 o'clock, right before the storm was about ready to move offshore. And as you saw there were some power flashes, a little bit of debris in the air. That debris was actually detected by radar, and you know, of course, in one of the more populous areas of the country. So a lot of people had eyes on this storm. A pretty remarkable sight there.
Absolutely. Scary stuff. The very southern tail of our current system. And we know we've got a more significant severe threat and a more significant rain threat out of Finn, too.
We do. And so going into Monday, we're going to be looking at this next really powerful storm coming across the Gulf Coast. And along with that, we're likely going to be seeing a severe threat, some very strong winds developing in the low levels of the atmosphere, helping to fuel that threat. So there could be tornadoes, certainly severe thunderstorm warnings anywhere from southeast Texas, the Houston area, across the Sabine River into Lake Charles, southeastern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, southern Alabama, Mobile, into New Orleans, into Panama City. All of those areas could be looking at a severe threat come Monday afternoon and evening. We'll have more on that coming up.
Welcome back to the Weather Channel. You're watching Winter Storm Ember coverage here, our first named winter storm of 2024. And this one is going to end big-time snow deficits and droughts we've been experiencing for almost 2 years across some areas of the Northeast. Much of the I-95 corridor, say Providence, Rhode Island, southward, not so much for you. You'll have some snow, but not a huge impactful snow as you will perhaps across the Interstate 84 corridor, which I'm close to here in Fishkill, New York. Now, earlier this morning, we were across the Hudson River, which is about maybe 10 miles away, into Orange County in the town of Newburgh, and we talked to Mayor Harvey there in Newburgh about his advice to people in the region when they deal with the snow coming in from Winter Storm Ember.
We want to make sure that people stay off the roads, stay home, stay warm, and you know, if you don't have to go anywhere, don't. And that's what we advise. The less people on the roadways, the safer people are, and the people who are the experts at plowing and clearing the roads and clearing the streets in and around the city of Newburgh, they can have an opportunity to do their job very well.
Yeah, the key word is stay off the roads. It's been snowing here for about 2 hours. Not super heavy, but it's a decent amount of snow starting to cover the parking lot here, but also this kind of side street. Not snow packed, but snow is covering it. That's because our temperatures really only got to 33 today before they fell back to freezing. And much this morning, they were in the mid to even upper 20s. So the ground has a time to cool down. Now the snow is moving in. So that, as we head overnight, the coldest part of the day, temperatures are not warming up at all here at the surface. Aloft they might, to maybe mix in some sleet, but overall, yeah, the roads will be not the ideal place to be. And the good news is they have plenty of plows ready, they have crews ready, maybe a little extra overtime after the holidays, and they have mounds of salt, Alex. I mean, that's one thing that never goes bad, the road salt here. They've They fill their contracts every year, but really almost for 2 full years, they've used very little of it because we had very little snowy weather the past 2 winters.
We're running on a surplus. So yeah, they got nothing but salt to work with. Paul, thanks so much. We're going to check back in with Paul in a moment. I want to give you a live look, though, at the New York City area. As Paul mentioned, we've seen snow throughout the day, but the roads are wet, and we've got rain that's on the move now, and a lot more rain to come next week.
Yeah, this next storm is going to be such a warmer storm relative to what we're seeing right now. So let's take a look, first of all, at what's called the flash flood guidance. And so this flash flood guidance tells us how much rain we would need in order to see flash flooding. And in this case, it's very low in some areas. Those orange areas indicating where 1/2 inch to 1 inch of rain in 1 hour's time would be enough to cause flash flooding. Red areas indicating where it would be less than 1/2 inch, so not very much. Now, this is a function of a lot of different things. It's terrain, it's urbanization, it's also the amount of water that's in the ground, and we've had a fair amount of rain here in recent weeks. So that area where you've got that very low flash flood guidance is an area where flash flooding is likely as of now from Tuesday into Wednesday. I wouldn't at all be surprised to see that area of likely flash flooding expanding as we watch this storm approach. It's going to be, again, a very powerful storm, a much warmer storm relative to what we're seeing right now. The low pressure center sitting around the middle Mississippi Valley on Tuesday morning, starting to bring up a lot of moisture into the southeast, including the Atlanta metro, the 85 corridor through the middle of the day, late morning, middle of the day on Tuesday, then here into the Carolinas, into Virginia late in the afternoon. Then Tuesday evening, that's when that conveyor belt of moisture comes up into New Jersey, into the tri-state area. Again, it's going to be very wet. Some snow initially here in New York, but in New England and New York, but that's going to change as it continues to move in. A very warm storm, so a lot of wet weather on the way for these areas where the flash flood guidance is already very low. But we've got a lot of rain coming down tonight. We've got snow coming down. That snow is just going to add water to the ground. And so all the way around, we're going to be looking at a flash flood concern with this storm and, of course, the very strong winds and snow on the back side of the system. And by the way, very strong winds on the front side of the system as well. You see all these lines here? They're very tightly packed. Those are lines of equal pressure. And when they're very tightly packed like that, that's showing you that there's a big change in pressure over a relatively short distance. And what the atmosphere does in response is create a lot of wind. So there's going to be very strong wind coming out of the south into southern New England with this system, in addition to that flash flood threat. Models showing us a good bit of wet weather here in the tri-state area, European model and the American model showing the same thing, and also in southern New England. So we certainly could be looking at flash flooding as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday. Alex, over to you.
All right, Carl, thanks so much. And I hope you at home will stay ahead of what's to come with both winter storms with the TWC streaming app. You can see updated alerts, plan and cancel big neighborhood events. Go to streamtwc.com. Winter storm Ember hammering the Northeast right now. We've got wintry mix, heavy snow, blustery winds, coastal issues. We thank you so much for staying with the Weather Channel. Our special live coverage continues. We're tracking both winter storms Ember and winter storm Finn. I'm Alex Wilson.
And I'm Carl Parker. For millions of people, this storm is going to bring the first significant snowfall in years. It's been a long, long time, and we've got a lot of snow on the way and another storm behind that.
Yeah, Finn looks to be a very big deal for a lot of the country, but right now, all eyes on Ember and all of our eyes on Paul Goodloe, our meteorologist in Fishkill, New York. Paul, the snow is coming down in a nice clip. I got to imagine it's putting everybody in a pretty good mood. The timing's nice with it being a weekend. A lot of people don't have to go to work, and we've been waiting some time for some good snow.
You know, you would think so, Alex, but you're going to find somebody who is just not happy.
Somebody yelled at you, didn't they?
Oh, well, I couldn't do this. But again, we're just in sales. We're not in production. And we've been kind of selling this storm for a while because this is the first big storm, big snow they've had, not only here, but parts of Connecticut, Pennsylvania, into New Jersey, into Massachusetts. They've had in almost 2 years. In fact, I think we might have actually picked up maybe an inch in Manhattan earlier today. And we were talking about this even yesterday, how New York City, this is not the bullseye for the snow. You might get a big burst, and you had that at 4 o'clock today. Now we're starting to see that rain kind of slide up the Jersey Shore and into parts of southern New York there. We're in the lower Hudson Valley in Fishkill here on the east side of the river. On the west side is Orange County and Newburgh. We were there earlier this morning, and they too have changed over, started snowing the last hour or two, and the temperatures never really got too far past 33 degrees today. So the ground has been cooling down and staying cool to allow this snow to start to accumulate. On the parking lot I'm standing on the grassy areas, expected, but then you see this kind of side street. It's not a major main thoroughfare, but there's enough traffic. You see some of the tire lines here, but that's what's happening. You don't have treated roads everywhere. They've been pre-treating tons of roads and interstates as well, so they're faring pretty well here. And we expect this to stay kind of wet for a little while, but the word on the street is basically stay off the streets, because as drivable as it is now, it only continues to get worse, because this is just the beginning of a long duration snow event. And like we saw earlier this afternoon in Harrisburg with Justin Michaels, we could have some decent bursts of snow, and these moderate to heavy snow bands could bring snow down at the rate of an inch an hour. It might not snow that entire hour, but that intense snowfall could quickly add up half to maybe 3/4 of an inch. And that and rapid cooling as well can really do a number on the sidewalks, the roads, and even the interstates, and especially the bridges as well, because if it does start to melt, it could dilute some of the brine solution. You get enough snow on top of that, and that cold starts to take over, and the temperatures are not getting any warmer here at the surface until perhaps late tomorrow. So we're going to see maybe a loft, little warming, little nose of warmer air could mix in some sleet here. That might tamp down some of our snow totals, but still, a ballpark of 6 to 12 inches in this area is still the forecast we're going for. There's some elevation in some of the hills and mountains around here, so they could even get in that higher range as well. But we're about a half mile from Interstate 84. If you keep moving east here, you go into Connecticut, Danbury, then you head about 90 miles from here into Hartford, Connecticut, and Winter Storm Ember, and then snow is headed that way as well. And Chris, I heard you mentioned about half hour ago, you might have seen maybe your first flake fall from the sky?
Yeah, we definitely have some flakes, Paul. I saw a few flurries about 30 minutes ago, and now we've noticed a little bit more in the way of snow. So take a look at the scene here. I mean, this is what I like to call, this is a southern snow. You usually get about 5 minutes of this, and that's it. And we call it a snowstorm in the south. But this is only the beginning of what's going to be a pretty solid snowstorm for Connecticut. Certainly no stranger, and we average about 50 inches a year. So we're certainly more in the snow zone than we are back towards I-95. We're north of New Haven. New Haven's farther south, and we'll be influenced a little bit by the water. Temperatures a little milder there, so that will cut back on our overall totals. But here in central and northern Connecticut, we're looking at anywhere from 6 to 10 inches, and there may even be areas that sees more than that. We're talking over the foot mark in some spots through Connecticut, Massachusetts, and parts of southern New England. And aside from the mountains in northern New England, northern Maine, we haven't seen a big snowstorm yet this season. The first winter storm warning of the year for much of Connecticut, southern New England, Rhode Island, parts of Massachusetts, and central New York. And this is the beginning. So as the snow falls, I want to show you, this is Pratt Street, all right? It's kind of quiet for a Saturday night. I will say I was out here last night, and there were a lot more folks. But I do think the alerts have been out. People are aware, and I think people are very excited about the snow. But if we pan up, I want to show you the beautiful Connecticut skyline here, or at least one of the buildings, because when you look up in the sky, the first snow, you can really get a taste of the flakes. And when you look up, you see the snowflakes, and it adds a little bit perspective. You can see some of the flakes there. This is going to change in the next hour. And then 2 hours from now, we should be getting into more of that heavier snowfall, moderate snow, and then even heavy snow on the order of 1 to 2 inches. And that's where we're going to see the bulk of the accumulation. So between About 8, 9, 10 o'clock, the snow's going to really start to pick up. And then later this evening, overnight, is when we expect the bulk of this storm to occur. That's when travel conditions will be at their worst. And the morning will be rough because the plows will have been keeping up with the main thoroughfares, but the side streets probably won't have been touched. We may have a lull in the morning. We expect that, a lightening up of the snowfall, even a pause. And then the snow will return throughout the latter half of the morning and into the early afternoon hours. And that's when we can squeeze out another 2-3 inches. So I think we're going to be on that 4 to 6 inch range tonight, and then an additional 2 to 3 inches or more throughout the day tomorrow. So that brings our overall total for the storm between 6 and 10 inches, with those locally higher amounts in the higher elevations. As you work your way into northwest Connecticut, we could see over 12 inches of snow in some areas. So double-digit totals here, the first big snowstorm of the season for southern New England, and that's where the big totals will be. And our neighbors to the north in Massachusetts, they're still waiting on the snow. Let's get an update from our meteorologist Mike Seidel, standing by this evening in Natick, Massachusetts. And Mike, has it started snowing yet? Or how long do you think it'll be before you start to see those flakes? Because it was dry, so it took a little while to moisten up that air column.
Yeah, certainly in Harford, I've been watching the obs. It's taken forever, and the same goes here in eastern Massachusetts. We're out here in the I-95 corridor between 95 and 495 in Natick, and I suspect after about 10 o'clock tonight, we'll start to see our first flakes. But the heavier snow is going to wait until after midnight, and we've got that winter storm warning going through tomorrow until 1 a.m. on Monday morning. Prep's underway. Take a look. They're loading up the salt trucks. They have plenty of salt because we've had hardly any snowfall so far this season. Worcester to our west has had 3 inches. Boston, Logan to our east, 0.2 of an inch. And we found a gentleman today who is on the tractor, on the snowplow for the first time for the Department of Public Works in Natick. Take a listen to Reese.
A little nervous. It's my first winter, so, we're just getting used to it, learning everything. Should be good. We'll make sure the machines are all ready, oiled up, gassed up. They got the sand in them. Make sure everything's working correctly before we go out on the road, just to make sure we don't have any major issues. And then once the snow starts coming down, we'll start plowing. We'll sand from 4 to maybe 10, 11, and then snow's supposed to start around midnight, and then we'll start actually doing the plowing, and then we sand again after the snow's done falling.
And there's the radar. It's coming our way. It's got to moisten up the atmosphere, so it's going to take a while. It may show on the radar that it's snowing, but it will take a while to get down to the ground. 34 now here in the Natick area, at Logan Airport 36. And there's the snowfall accumulations. Let's go right to that because that's what you want to see. And again, south of Boston, down the south coast, the South Shore, the Cape and the Islands, those numbers drop off quite a bit. In fact, you get down to the Cape and the Islands, you may not even get an inch of snow. Out here, we're expecting 6 to 8. Some areas will get double digits, especially out through Worcester, up around 495 and around towards Low. And Carl, impacts tomorrow at Logan Airport already. They've canceled nearly 150 flights. Cape Air has thrown in just about their entire schedule has been canceled. And JetBlue and United, they've canceled 20% of their flights. So overall, about 15% of all the flights out of Logan, in and out of Logan, have been canceled. But I can guarantee you those numbers are going to go up pretty quickly tomorrow morning as the snow picks up, adds up at the runways, and they have to de-ice. So if you've got a flight out of Logan, especially through mid-afternoon, make sure you check ahead before you go out to the airport to make sure your flight is even heading out of Logan Airport.
Good advice, Mike. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And let's take a look at what's happening on the radar right now. And so you see the conveyor belt of moisture that is coming up with this storm up into the tri-state area right now. And so this is part of what Mike and Chris have been talking about. You've got lighter snow along the leading edge right in there. But as that axis of moisture moves up and kind of translates up into southern New England, we're going to see the snowfall rates really dramatically increasing over the next several hours here. Right now we're getting rain and 41 degrees in Philadelphia. It's snowing in New York, Central Park, about 35. Raining in Harrisburg. We got 6 inches of snow before we changed over. Also been seeing some moderate and in some cases heavy snow in central Pennsylvania. Hazleton reporting heavy snow right now. Nazareth coming in with 4 inches of snow, nearly so in Unityville. And then as we take you farther east, we see the snow here in Bridgeport as well as into Newburgh. Here's part of what both those guys were talking about, Mike and Chris. You see right in here there are some stations that are looking like they should be getting snow, but they're not. Concord, Hartford, because we've got very dry conditions at the ground. And so as the snow is falling out of the cloud, it's making it partially down, but then it evaporates. It actually manages to just sublimate, as we call it, before it makes its way to the ground. So we're not really seeing much in the way of snow right now, but that's going to change rather dramatically in southern New England. This is a look at the model forecast going forward, and here you see this big conveyor as it's driving up and into southern parts of New England. So that is where we're going to be looking at the snowfall rates really stepping up. And then notice as we go into the late evening hours, early morning hours, 1 o'clock in the morning, right in there, heavy snowfall rates in Connecticut, Rhode Island, into eastern parts of Massachusetts, and the winds are going to be increasing as well. Winds probably gusting over 30, 35 miles per hour. So all the way around, it's going to be a tough night and very early morning. Then the low kind of elongating as it moves out towards the Maritimes, but an upper level system is going to come through behind that. And so along with that, we're going to get some additional light snow showers for a lot of the Northeast going into the day tomorrow. So going forward, the heaviest of snows will be centered in eastern parts of New York, upstate New York, as well as into New England. Some pockets here of 8 to 12 inches of snow. You saw that closer map there. We're talking about 10 inches, perhaps on the northwest side of the Boston metro area, 495, that corridor up towards Andover in northern parts of Massachusetts. And again, as I mentioned, a lot of wind with the storm. Here we go through tonight and into early tomorrow morning. Winds increasing to 40 to 50 miles per hour in Boston tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Fierce winds coming in with the storm before it exits. Alex, over to you.
Yeah, so we've got a lot still to go with this storm. I want to give you some city timing, talk travel. Obviously, Boston will be an airport that we watch. I think the timing may help you. Obviously, I think a lot of the flights begin to wind down as we get into the mid to late evening hours. But tomorrow morning could be a different ballgame with those gusty winds and snow still continuing. Meanwhile, New York down towards D.C., it's been either snow, a wet snow, or just rain. So that's kept things in the green category. Road conditions, that's a different story. We've got problems due to visibility. We've got snow-covered roadways across a lot of the Northeast where interior sections are still well below the freezing mark with that moderate snow. You're going to see those roadways get covered. Coastal rain and wind today and tonight, inland snow and wintry mix. So dangerous travel, especially now that it's dark. Overnight, it's going to be tough out there. So please use caution if you do have to get out on the roads. Winds gusting 35 to even 50 miles an hour. So that would also mean there is the chance of some power outages. I don't think we're going to see widespread power outages, but we definitely could see some. So have the phone charged, have your tablets charged, have your flashlights nearby. Make sure you have make sure they work, right? If you're like me, you have the flashlight and then you need it and you're like, oh, awesome. It's out of battery. Right now, New York still reporting moderate snow. Man, you guys are living on the edge. Hempstead, we've got moderate snow, but again, it's rain that's just, it's knocking on your doorstep. Islip, you've got rain at 37, and we're going to see that rain continue to creep northward over the next few hours. So New York overnight, it's rain for you. Carl, this isn't the end of the rain for New York or areas that got big snow out of this storm. We could be looking at big rain out of Finn.
Yeah, we've got a much more powerful storm coming in Tuesday and Wednesday, and it's also going to be a warmer storm. So a lot of the areas where there's snow on the ground tonight and tomorrow will be areas where we're getting heavy rain. So here's a look at the flash flood potential. We've got a likely area well in advance of this storm where the flash flood guidance is very low. It's not going to take a lot to cause flooding, but it wouldn't be surprising at all to see this area of likely flash flooding expanding as we get closer to the event. Here's the low pressure on Tuesday morning sitting in the middle of Mississippi Valley. A lot of moisture coming up from the Gulf ahead of that. So we see this area of heavier rain in Georgia, in the Atlanta metro, the 85 corridor through the middle of the day on Tuesday, then coming up into the Carolinas, into Virginia later in the afternoon on Tuesday. Then very late on Tuesday into the evening hours, that's when that axis of moisture moves right up into those areas where that flash flooding is likely, talking about eastern Pennsylvania and also northern New Jersey, parts of southeastern New York, certainly the New York City metro area where there's a lot of asphalt and a lot of concrete. We could be talking about 2 to 3 inches of rain, maybe more than that, falling in these areas where there's been snow on the ground. So there's going to be a flash flood potential, and there's going to be a lot of wind with the system as well. Very strong winds coming out of the south. And we'll have more on all this coming up in a few minutes.
All right, welcome into the Weather Channel's continuing live coverage here of Winter Storm Ember. Just now beginning in Hartford, Connecticut. It's been starting to snow over the last 20 to 30 minutes, and it's slowly starting to pick up. Winds are also picking up here, too, in the downtown core. We are in downtown Hartford, Connecticut, where we haven't had much snow at all. We've seen some snow showers so far this season, but we haven't had any snowstorms, and that's changing tonight. Now, whether folks have been prepared for the forecast or they're shocked, some people are in doubt that we're going to get as much as the forecast is calling for. It's just been a long time since we've had a good solid snowstorm. Last year we had some snow, but we had lots of little nickel and dime events, a quick inch here, a quick 2 inches here, and it never really lasted on the ground more than a few days, and we hadn't seen one big storm. But today we could see between 6 and 10 inches by the time we head into this time tomorrow, and the bulk of that snow is actually going to fall tonight. So later on this evening, the snow will really pick up. We'll watch for those 1 to 2 inch per hour snowfall rates. Again, remember, the snow's just now beginning, but look at the radar. Look at the heavier bursts of snow that's starting to push in from the south and work our way north. So we're eroding the dry air. We're going to get into heavier precip, meaning heavier snowfall. At the coast along I-95, we'll change over to rain likely, or at least go over to a wintry mix. That will cut back on our overall snowfall totals, say around New Haven, Mystic, Stonington, and then getting into New London. Providence could even get into that wintry mix, and we're going to have to watch Boston kind of closely because it could be either a big slam dunk over a half foot of snow, or it may really cut us back to less than 3 inches. And then as we go into tomorrow afternoon, we'll get another burst, and then notice everybody crashes back over to snow. So I know we started in New York City as snow. Some snow for a very short period before the system exits. Won't amount to a ton, maybe enough to coat things in white coral, but it gets a lot colder than that. And look at the totals. The sweet spot really looks to be southern New England. So between Connecticut, at least the northern half of Connecticut, much of central and western Massachusetts, southern Vermont, New Hampshire, and parts of northern Rhode Island, expecting anywhere between 6 and over 10 inches by tomorrow, with some spots over a foot, Carl.
Yeah, Chris, just amazing to think how long it's been since we've seen significant snow in so many parts of the Northeast. Thank you so much. And let's look at the radar picture right now. And this is what's happened over the last few hours. You notice the back end of the storm moving up through Maryland and towards southern part of Pennsylvania there. So it's moving along pretty quickly. There you see we've got snow being reported in Harrisburg. So we're going to get a little bit of a changeover once again on the backside of the system with some colder air coming down. We had some rain in Harrisburg, kind of cutting down what's on the ground there. We've got about a half a foot of snow in Harrisburg reported, at least by a couple of observers. 35 and snowing right now in New York. We've had some moderate and in some cases heavy snow in northeastern Pennsylvania, snowing now in Bridgeport and Newport, Hartford, where we just saw Chris. And then farther north, we're not seeing all these stations reporting snow as of yet, but the atmosphere is slowly but surely getting a little bit more moist and allowing what is on the radar to make it down to the ground. And so here's the model forecast, and I want you to notice this big arc of moisture as it comes up here into southern New England. So that's where the heaviest of snowfall rates will be later tonight. Southeastern New York, southern parts New England, Connecticut, into Massachusetts. And that's really going to step up in the Boston area. You're going to have this cutoff where you have this, mixed precipitation and rain on the south shore and along the coast there. But just inland from that is where we could be talking about a really substantial snow event, maybe even as much as a foot of snow north and west of Boston along that 495 corridor, getting up towards Andover there and towards the New Hampshire state line. 3 o'clock in the morning, still going strong in Boston. Winds very strong as well, coming out of the east, gusting 40, 50 miles per hour, even into tomorrow morning. Still seeing winds of 40 to 50 miles per hour in gusts. And then the storm does begin to wind down, Alex, but we've got some lingering light snow continuing through tomorrow.
Yeah, and then Winter Storm Finn obviously bringing the rain into next week. But we look live at Houston and New Orleans. These are two communities, two big cities that'll be in the path of some strong to severe thunderstorms on Monday. So a dangerous start to the week for a lot of these areas near the Gulf and along the I-10 corridor. Severe risk Monday, greatest where you see the brightest shade of red. So that would be Victoria and Houston, all the way over to Panama City and Apalachicola. But New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Hattiesburg, Biloxi, Mobile, Pensacola, all in the path. So a lot of people, a lot of cities, and a lot of motorists will be in play for storms on Monday. We've got a warm front set up. Again, this associated with Winter Storm Finn. And a lot of times we watch these warm fronts. Gulf of Mexico Mexico moisture, that'll be on the increase, pulling in out of the south. We will have warmer temperatures as well down towards the Gulf Coast. With those southeast surface winds shift to more of a southwesterly wind direction aloft, and that would increase the risk of rotating storms, those that could produce tornadoes. We already saw one today near Fort Lauderdale. Could we see more into Monday? Very likely that we see a more significant or more widespread severe threat. The mid-level winds aloft will also be on the strong side. That means that we've got to watch for strong winds at the surface. So damaging winds, those that could create tree damage, power line issues. That'll also be something, unfortunately, we watch for on Monday. So during the mid to late morning hours, storms get going across the southern plains, continue across the southeast through the afternoon and evening. And that heavy rain, by the way, will work through parts of the southeast with more storms likely into our Tuesday for places like Georgia, South Carolina. So the damaging wind tornado threat would shift east into the second day of the work and school week. We'll be right back.
It's a cold, hard fact. No other news network out there is trusted more than the Weather Channel. Trusted to expertly time out your conditions.
This is the system that is headed your way.
Trusted to be the team that keeps you as ready for winter as we are. It's why America doesn't trust winter coverage to anyone else.
Look at this, the first blast of snow in Pennsylvania's capital, or significant snow in more than 1,000 days. We've seen heavy snow coming down at times in Harrisburg this afternoon, but close but no cigar. Officially at the National Weather Service there in Harrisburg, they reported just 2 inches of snow. So we continue our streak of a 4-inch snowfall or greater and the days waiting. Nearly 3 years it's been since we've seen 4 inches or more, and today, just not there. 2 inches. That's as good as it gets. All right. Snowfall reports. For some areas, Carl, it's been much better. You know, we look down at, like, say, Cumberland, Maryland, over a half foot for some. So this has been an impactful storm. Carl Parker, Alex Wilson here with you. We got crews out in the field, too. And, Carl, this is one of 2 storms set over the next few days.
Yeah, the next one's going to be a very wet storm. It's going to be a much warmer storm, so there's going to be a significant flood risk for a lot of the East Coast. And then on the back side of that, a blizzard. So a really active period. And right now, more than 47 million people under winter alerts of some kind, thanks to our 2 storms. You notice that the blizzard warning not showing up right yet, but we think that there is potential for there to be a blizzard in the Midwest with the next storm. It's going to be a very powerful low moving out and a lot of strong wind with that, Alex.
Yeah, and what we know right now is that airlines are warning people to prepare for flight delays and for flight cancellations. By the way, it's not just planes, but trains too. Amtrak has made changes to its scheduled service due to the winter storms. New York State has deployed more than 1,600 large plow trucks to clear roads statewide. Speaking of New York, speaking of snow, we've got Paul Goodloe, our meteorologist in Fishkill, New York right now. It's not sideways snow, but it's like slanted snow. So there is a bit of a breeze there too, Paul.
A little diagonal, snow coming on down here because it's not as windy as it will be tomorrow as that coastal low really takes over. You talked about things being kind of moved around because of the weather. My alma mater, my high school, Archbishop Stepinac, they were playing a big arch rival, Iona, today at Westchester County Center. They moved the game up so people can come to the game and then get home before all this stuff is coming in. We got the snow now across Westchester as well. We're in Fishkill. We're in Dutchess County, so north of my old stomping grounds, but Westchester adjacent, I'll just call it that. And we're in the thick of the snow, been there for a little while. And our temperatures barely got to 33 and now have dipped to the freezing point as well. Let me show you what it's doing. Like places like this grassy area, these things cool down a lot faster than the roadway. So yeah, the snow is picking up here. This parking lot, the snow is picking up here to the point where I can actually make a little snowball here because our temperatures aren't too far from freezing, so it has decent water content. It's packable snow right now in my hand, but also on the secondary street behind me, you got some car traffic. You can see there's also snow there, especially where the car tires haven't traveled. The main thoroughfare seeing a little bit of slush, but they've been out here pre-treating the roads as well. And this morning we were over in Newburgh, which is about maybe 10, 12 miles to the west of me across the Hudson. We talked to Mayor Harvey there about his recommendations for people in the area.
Our emergency management services is all in place and have done the necessary preparations for the city of Newburgh for this inclement weather, the storm that's coming down on us, and we have already prepped the road. So we're ready. We've prepared. In fact, the city government and the city council approved a new budget, and we've purchased 3 new snow trucks with the heavy plows and the salt machine. So we're ready. We're ready.
You know, Alex, you think about that. 3 new plows there in Newburgh. That's like, what, maybe double the amount of plows in Atlanta right now. So I tell you what, they too, like the Atlanta plows, haven't been used in almost 2 years here. So they're going to definitely get a good workout as we visit them tomorrow and see what Winter Storm Ember is going to bring them. Most likely somewhere in that 6 to 12 inches of snow expected here across the I-84 corridor here in the Lower Hudson Valley.
Yeah, those
Alex?
clouds are going to be nice and shiny, right? They've been sitting inside for months. Paul, thanks so much. Some of the snowfall reports that have been on the highest side there across the Laurel Highlands into, or I guess south central PA, into parts of the panhandle of West Virginia, northern Virginia, Maryland as well. Hollidaysburg, 7.5 inches. Cumberland, 7 inches. Hightown, Virginia, 7 inches. Altoona, nearly 7 inches. And we're closing in on 7 inches there in Cabins, West Virginia, too. 1 to 2 inch per hour snowfall rates continue from about the Lehigh Valley up into the southern tier of New York, parts of the upstate as well, where you see those deepest shades of blue. So the snow continues to come down at a decent clip. And in a lot of these areas, temperatures are still cold. Binghamton's at 27, State College at 30, Albany 29. So those lesser used roadways especially quickly getting snow covered or slushy as you've seen traffic over them throughout the evening and overnight. Snow continues into the interior, Northeast and New England.
Watch the Weather Channel for continuing coverage of Winter Storm Ember. Get trusted updates on the storm on the Weather Channel and the Weather Channel TV app.
Welcome back into the Weather Channel's continuing live coverage of Winter Storm Ember. The snow has steadily started to pick up here in downtown Hartford. We are in the capital of Connecticut, where we haven't seen much snow at all really this season. And last year we saw a well below average season, only about half of what we typically see on an annual basis. So it's been a couple years since we've had a good solid snowstorm. And from the locals that I've talked to, most folks are really excited. They're kind of in misbelief. Are we really going to get as much as the forecast calls for? I think we are. And remember, this is not going to be a potent nor'easter, but it's going to pick up moisture very quickly off the Atlantic and kind of slingshot it into southern New England. It's a quick moving storm, so that will keep most folks less than a foot. But we've already seen a half foot of snowfall in many spots across southern Pennsylvania and also into western Maryland. That's where the heaviest snowfall has been so far today. We're going to get even higher totals here in southern New England, and that's really going to be the sweet spot between the Hudson River Valley and then working your way into Massachusetts, southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire, and much of northern Rhode Island and northern Connecticut. So here in Hartford, you can see it's cool because the snow is falling and it's not really melting. In fact, take a look at the truck bed here. It's just sticking. And we were in the low 20s this morning. Temperatures got just above freezing as we had a pretty quiet day overall, stayed fairly cloudy, and now we're right around the freezing mark. So we're going to be around that 30, 31, 32 degree mark for the bulk of this event. I don't think we'll have much changeover here in Hartford. We may go over to a little more of a wetter snow later on in the morning hours, but overnight, in the next couple of hours, the snowfall rates are going to pick up. In road conditions right now, in fact, if you can, really quickly, I'm just going to kind of I can see what they look like. They're wet, so they're going to quickly deteriorate. Make note of this, all right? Because in the next hour, I expect this to be snow covered. In fact, in Waterbury, we already have snow covered roads. That's just south of here in Hartford, Connecticut. And that heavier snow band is knocking on our doorstep. So really quickly, we'll jump back onto the sidewalk. And Alex, you know, it didn't take very long. We have snow, and it's about to get a lot heavier here in Hartford, Connecticut. In fact, a half foot is expected and possibly up over 8 to 10 inches, which would be about half of what we saw all last year.
It's been a long wait for a lot of people. They're excited to see just even the flakes flying, honestly, Chris. We know it's not going to stick around for a while, but hopefully you get to enjoy it while it is there. Chris Bruin, We're going to check back in with you there in Hartford, Connecticut. Well, flakes were flying yesterday in the Chicago area. A little appetizer, a little sneak peek of what's to come. Joliet, this is the scene there on Friday. We had about a tenth of an inch of snow in Chicago, but as I mentioned, much more on the way. It's courtesy of Winter Storm Finn, likely to be a blockbuster storm into next week. It's going to bring heavy snow and wind into the west tomorrow. That storm intensifies on Sunday across the plains, so it deepens, it strengthens, it's big. And then snow and wind expected for the Midwest by early next week. That could bring blizzard conditions to some communities. Water vapor imagery, there's the system again bringing snow right now to the west, and it will continue to affect the west tomorrow, moving into the plains, again strengthening. It's a large system. We've got a ton of real estate getting in on snow, wind, severe rain. So eastern and central part of the country will be barely untouched. There's not going to be many communities that don't see some part of this system. Again, the blizzard conditions possible for the plains into the Great Lakes, gusty winds and snow up there, and we could see a footprint of 5 to 8+ inches from Kansas City up towards Chicago through Wednesday. So the snow totals, I think Omaha, you're a winner. Kansas City northward, I think Kansas City, you might be on the edge of some of the heaviest snow. Same for Chicago, but a place like Madison, Wisconsin, northern parts of lower Michigan, getting over towards Dodge City. These could be areas that pick up a lot of snow and big winds too. 30 to 35 mile an hour gusts in Springfield. Those will get as high as 50 miles an hour into the day Monday. Chicago, St. Louis, Detroit, Milwaukee gusting 20, 30+ miles an hour during the day Tuesday. So widespread wind that would lead to travel problems, unfortunately, across a lot of our Midwestern airports as well. By Wednesday, you can see still gusty around the Great Lakes with the plains finally seeing things settle. Carl, over to you.
Well, we also had some severe weather today, and take a look at the tornado that moved right through downtown Fort Lauderdale. This is within the last couple of hours here, and just so many videos of this tornado because it was in a very heavily populated area. Touchdown near Los Olas, and at least went through a couple of power lines. We saw some power flashes, looked like some debris in the air as well. All of this happening very quickly. The tornado warning was issued at 5:45 by the National Weather Service, and then the tornado touching down around 6 o'clock right before the storm moved offshore. You can see a little of that the power flash there that occurred there, and notice how low the cloud bases were. Just a lot of moisture in the air, so plenty of moisture available for storms. The instability was not off the charts, but it was enough, and there was a lot of wind shear today, and that was what got all of that going. Now, we're worried that there might be more of this kind of thing going into Monday evening. This is a look at the next storm that's going to come out. I want you to notice the direction of the winds at the surface here. So our winds coming out of the south-southeast, or east-southeast, I should say, along that front at the surface. And then at about 5,000 feet, they're going to be coming out of the south. So that's a lot of turning of the winds from the surface up to 5,000 feet. We call that low-level wind shear, and when you've got that in place, that usually sets the stage for spinning storms. And so tornadoes will be possible along the Gulf Coast, from Houston over into New Orleans, into Mobile, and then into northwest Florida as well. Then as we go into Tuesday, we're going to watch the storm come out. Very strong mid-level winds. That's another part of what drives a severe weather threat, can lead to damaging wind and storms. So we will see some potential for severe weather continuing in parts of the southeast and also in northern Florida. And this is a look at how that evolves. There you see Monday morning, we're starting to see that stormy weather gathering on the Gulf Coast, continues into the afternoon on Monday, and then moves up into the southeast through the overnight hours. We'll have more on this coming up in a few minutes.
Weather Channel coverage of Winter Storm Ember continues this evening. I'm meteorologist Paul Goodloe live in Fishkill, New York. We're in the lower Hudson Valley, and the snow has been falling for about 3 hours, and it's really starting to kind of pick up a little bit intensity, but also where it's sticking, and the coverage of the snow will continue to push on towards the north and east. Right now, where I'm standing in a parking lot, the snow has been sticking here because you don't see much traffic. The grass behind me as well, picking up that snow. But the secondary street has been picking up snow. We're seeing less blacktop, and we're seeing definitely more snow. Just watching a plow go by, it has the plow down. So it's currently now scraping the street because even the more major thoroughfare is now picking up that snow. I can come down here and kind of show you. Again, this is untracked, so it's probably closing in on maybe 3/4 of an inch of snow. But it's the type of snow that you can easily, pack because the temperature is sitting at 29 degrees. Once we start getting down to the mid-20s, it's kind of hard to make these snowballs here. But as I kind of push on this, it starts to get kind of shiny and icy. I tell you what, this is a tough snowball. This could be perhaps a friendship questioning snowball because you can make this pretty firm right here. But I'm going to toss this about 180 miles to my east on towards Natick, Massachusetts. That's where Mike Seidel is. And Mike, we know the snow has already gotten towards Hartford. You're about 90 miles to the east of Hartford. And you guys are far enough away from Boston in the south that you too could pick up maybe a ½ inch or more snow as the sun comes up tomorrow.
Or I think you misspoke, and it's okay, a ½ foot or more of snow before tomorrow morning. That's exactly right. Let's go to the radar right now and show you what we're looking at. We've got some ocean effect rain and snow showers that came in with that east wind. So Logan right now is light snow 35. We've got snow up around Lawrence and 31. And the temperature is going to play a big part in what sticks and what doesn't stick. 35 Logan, 34 here in Natick, and 31 at Worcester. And the air is still relatively dry. The humidity is about 65%. So it's going to take another hour or so before it saturates, at least here, I think, before we get the snow down to the ground. Then it will pick up and fall at the rate of an inch an hour overnight. So you wake up tomorrow morning, a whole different scene out here beyond 495 and 495. Hey, they got the snow sticks, and look at these. This is to know where the curb is. No, it's not going to snow this much. But back 9 years ago, remember, 110 inches? 4 storms in a row, they needed a stick this tall. So you've got them around the parking lot. Look at all, there are a lot of snow sticks here, more than I've ever seen at one hotel, but it's good for those of us staying here and also for the plow operators. So the heavy snow picks up overnight. It'll snow through tomorrow afternoon, winding down probably 4 or 5 o'clock. If you're flying in and out of Logan, check ahead with your air carrier. Already we've got about 150 flights canceled. That's about 15% of the schedule overall, Alex, but guaranteed more flights will be canceled tomorrow, and then people will have to be shoved onto seats Monday and into Tuesday. So it's just waiting for the first flakes to come on down. Only 0.2 of an inch so far this season at Logan. Pretty miserable at this point, and pathetic.
It's been kind of lame, yeah, and pathetic. And boring. we could go on and on, right?
Yes.
New York City,
on and
Mike.
on.
Yeah, New York City is one of those spots too where they've been wishing and waiting and hoping and however the song goes, but it's wet roadways. You've seen snow, but you're just not seeing anything pile up. We're in the mid-30s and we've got the rain moving in. And then, Carl, next week, even the areas that get the big snow, Hartford, Connecticut, parts of Massachusetts, they're going to get on big rain.
Yeah, I mean, we could be talking about 2 to 3 to 4 inches of rain in southern New England. So on top of areas where we've had snow, that's going to mean there's a lot of water in the ground already and a lot of concern about flash flooding. I want to show you the flash flood guidance. This is right now looking at northern Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania. All those areas in orange are where it would take as little as a ½ of an inch to an inch of rain in 1 hour to cause flash flooding. In red, less than a ½ of an inch of rain in 1 hour would cause flash flooding. And so it's no coincidence that that's the very area that the Weather Prediction Center has outlined as being an area of likely flash flooding between Tuesday and Wednesday. Would not be at all surprised to see that expand as we get closer to the event. So the low pressure is going to be a very strong one sitting in the middle Mississippi Valley early on Tuesday. Here we see this axis of rain coming off the Gulf into Atlanta and the 85 corridor through the middle of the day on Tuesday. potential blizzard conditions on the back side of the system on Tuesday. Then here we go into later Tuesday. Heavier rain coming up into the Carolinas and Virginia. But for the Northeast, the critical time is going to be late on Tuesday. You see the axis of moisture driving up there into parts of New Jersey and the tri-state area very late on Tuesday, with a lot of wind, by the way, coming out of the south. Wind screaming out of the south out ahead of that system. Again, a very powerful storm. And then that heavy rain slowly making its way over into southern New England and Long Island through the overnight and into early on Wednesday as the backside of the storm continues to produce that snow. So we're talking about 2 to 3 to maybe 4 inches of rain here across southern New England from the tri-state area on eastward. The American model showing something very similar to that. So this could mean significant flooding, considering that we've got a lot of water coming down now, a lot of water that will be in the ground because of all the snow. Again, this is just going to be a couple of days away here, so we're looking at a significant flood threat. Alex?
All right, you can get much more on both of these winter storms with the TWC streaming app, streamtwc.com. Our coverage continues here on the Weather Channel. No one I'd rather see more on a Saturday night. Dr. Nab and Mike Bettis coming up.
All right, welcome back into the Weather Channel. We've got extended coverage late into the overnight hours as we're tracking not one but 2 winter storms, starting with Winter Storm Ember right now as it impacts the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. We're getting the snow now here in Hartford, Connecticut. That's where I am. I want to show you the scene. They had a Disney on Ice event, and now the families are all starting to exit and get into their cars and make their way home before conditions really start to deteriorate. In fact, the snow has really started to pick up probably in the last 20 minutes or so, and we're already starting to see it stick. Take a look at the trash can right here. It's not going to take long before road conditions start to look like this, and even the awnings that you see. Minor accumulations right now, just a coating, but get ready for a world of white as we head into the overnight hours, and throughout the day tomorrow, we could see over a ½ foot to nearly double-digit snowfall totals. Not just here, but how about up the road in Massachusetts? Mike, have you seen snow yet?
Yes, you can't see it at home, but this is what I did as a kid. You put your hand up and block the light, and I see a few little pesky flakes coming down. So the atmosphere is starting to moisten up. We've got a ways to go before you see it on camera. Another half an hour, I suspect, and then tomorrow, a whole different story. We've got the winter storm warnings up through late tomorrow night. We're expecting about 6 to 8 inches where we are in Natick and Framingham out off 95. You get out to 495 to Worcester and those areas where it's below freezing right now, and we could see double-digit snowfall. Meanwhile, let's go back, get some more analysis. Mike Bettis and Dr. Rick Nab in the house on a Saturday night, so you know this is a big deal.
All right, for sure. Mike, thank you so much, and welcome into our continuing coverage here on the Weather Channel. Mike Bettis with our expert, Dr. Rick Nab. Plenty to cover for you as we see this big storm ramp up in the Northeast, a full-fledged nor'easter. And oh, by the way then, Dr. Nab, we've got another storm that comes in on the heels of that fin that'll affect the middle of the country.
Yeah, the fin is going to actually combine with Ember to produce some problems in the I-95 corridor of the water variety. So you've got quite a week ahead in the Northeast.
All kinds of things to cover for you here, folks. So hold on. We got you covered here. Let's take you to Maryland, Hagerstown, Maryland. And yep, the snow has been coming down for us today, right along 81. At times, some very difficult conditions, about 4 inches of snow so far. You can see it's making for a slow go in a lot of places. But you know what? Some drivers undeterred, but maybe they should have been. You can see the big rig there or the mail truck. Everyone's skidding off the roads here, unfortunately. All right, we want you to be safe. We want to update you on what's happening right now. Ember remains active for us, producing rain and snow. A little bit of ice for us, but that's diminishing some. You can see the areas highlighted in blue. That's where we have all the snow right now. New York, you've had some snow today. You've now gone over to some rain. And generally, New York South, it's all rain for you at this point. Temperature 36 in Trenton with rain. 40 in Philly, you have rain. Lancaster, we're 36. Snow back along I-81, and the snow's now exiting for you in Hagerstown, headed up through the Scranton area, the Poconos, Williamsport. You have snow. It's 30 degrees. In New York, you've gone back over to rain. We're 36 right now. We may stay in rain for a few more hours, a good chunk of the night tonight, and maybe you get a little bit of snow tomorrow, but it doesn't look like it's going to be much. Now in Philly, we've had trace of snow at Philadelphia International. Valley Green, though, we've had about 4 inches of snow. In Carroll Valley, 4.5 inches of snow has come down for us here. And we're going to see these reports really push their way north and east. And I think the numbers are going to come way up, too. Montgomery Township, 2.1 inches of snow. In Whitehall Township, 6.5 inches of snow. And I think the snow bands are really going to start to pick up for us now in Connecticut, portions of Pennsylvania, but Connecticut, maybe northern Jersey, then up into southern New England. Grantsville, 6 inches. McNeil, 5.5. In Winchester, a tenth of an inch of freezing rain there and ice accumulation. Bridgeport, we're at 33 with some snow. We're at 36 in East Hampton with rain. So that rain snow line is kind of right at Long Island Sound here. Newburgh, we're 28. And Hartford, we're 32. So let's get you to Hartford, where the snow is now starting to pick up, and meteorologist Chris Bruin is there. Chris, it's going to be a rough night tonight. The snow is really going to start to come down overnight tonight.
Yeah, in fact, if we look at the radar, a very heavy band of snow, probably some of the heaviest snow we'll see with this whole storm, is starting to take shape in southern Connecticut, already making it through Waterbury and moving into New Britain. So it's about 10-15 miles to our south and quickly starting to push in. So while the snow is certainly picking up in size, the intensity is starting to really pick up probably within the next 30 minutes to an hour. So that's when we expect the accumulation to really ramp up. That's when we expect the road conditions to really go downhill. We've already seen snow-covered roads now in Waterbury, Connecticut, and many of the spots, even down around Stamford, we've seen some significant snowfall. It's a very wet snow, so road conditions are slushy and snow-covered. There's the radar. You can see those deeper colors of blue. That's what we're looking at, about to push into Hartford. So right now, just some light snow. Snowfall rates are going to be picking up here. And as we go into the later evening hours, get to about 10, 11 o'clock, heavier snow. And that's when we expect the bulk of the snow heading into the overnight hours. And then by sunrise, we should have close to a half foot of snow on the ground, just from really a 4 or 5 hour stretch of those heavier snowfall rates. Then it's going to lighten up a little bit. The storm's kind of reorganize, and we're going to get a shift in our wind. So colder, drier air will come in from the north and west. So areas at the coast that went back over to rain will crash back over to snow. Temperatures plummet. We'll get another boost late in the morning and into the afternoon on Sunday. Could squeeze out another 2-3 inches here in central Connecticut, and then we'll be done. We get a break on Monday, and then it's a whole different ball game as we head into early next week with Winter Storm Finn. Only on this storm coming up, we'll have rain and temperatures in the 50s along with high winds. So flash flooding a big concern here in the Northeast. All right, it took a little while, Mike, and we had to wait over an hour or two for the whole atmosphere to moisten up. But you said you saw your first snowflakes there in Natick, and things are going to really pick up here in a hurry.
Well, think about it this way. I've been waiting all season, 30-plus years at TWC, and I've never had to wait this long to see my first flakes. So that's why I'm so excited and jacked up. So the first flakes here out in Natick. Again, we've got this band of ocean effect snow showers coming in. Let's go right to the radar. You can see those from Logan Airport, where it's 33 right now. By the way, about 15% of flights tomorrow in and out of Logan already canceled. And then right up 93 through the Merrimack Valley. That's that band of snow showers. Meanwhile, we've got the snow, the main storm coming in from the southwest. And so that's really going to be the main snow maker in the next couple of hours. Then overnight into Sunday, and the snow's going to taper off sometime Sunday afternoon. Right here, we're looking at about 6 to 8 inches. Higher amounts west of here. Boston proper right now 2 to 3 inches. And as you go down towards Plymouth and then the Cape and the Islands, little if any snow there. Is going to be just too warm for it to stick. Meanwhile, prep's underway out here in Natick. The Department of Public Works loading up their trucks today, salt trucks. They've got a mixture of salt and sand, so they're ready to hit the roads tonight and keep the roads, passable tomorrow. In fact, if you think about it, the major impact is probably going to be more Monday morning as we have the refreeze and people trying to get back into work and school. But not only yours truly, but a lot of the locals are excited about the first major snowfall in almost 2 years.
It's been about 2 years since we've had a significant snowfall. Last year, I want to say we had 12 inches total. But the Northeast is so fickle with forecasting. We had a lot of storms last year that were forecasted 3 to 6 inches, and then it was just rain. Or, there was so many different swings. And so we only ended up with 12 inches of snow last year. And we never had a significant storm. So it's been about 2 years since we've had a good storm. Bring it on. Let's enjoy it. That's why we live here.
Exactly. They had about 12 inches last year at Logan Airport, fourth least snowiest year on record. Dr. Knabb, as the storm cranks up tomorrow, the winds are going to crank up, and that's going to draw in colder air. And I think once the sun goes down tomorrow at 4:30, that's when things are really going to solidify and ice up in this area.
Absolutely, because there's going to be multiple rounds of heavy snow, and there's going to be places that get some rain and slush, and then the temperature crashes down. So let's talk about southeastern New England here in terms of how many rounds of heavy snow you're going to have and what's going to happen on the southern side there, even though you don't get the heaviest snow. The troughing here in the atmosphere in the eastern half of the U.S. has multiple short waves embedded in it, and so there's more energy yet to come to give a boost to the low that is already here coming off the Delmarva. So the energy back in here is going to swing in overnight and interact with this surface low, whose pressure has already dipped down below 1,000 millibars, but it's got a lot more strengthening yet to do, especially once it gets just off the southeastern New England coastline. Watch all of this troughing here. This is all going to quickly slide to the east, such that by tomorrow morning, now we've got this southeast to northwest negatively tilted trough, as we call it. That's really going to cause the low-level spin to crank up tomorrow during the day before the system completely departs. So watch how many isobars we don't add later tonight into early tomorrow morning, but watch what happens after about the time you get up in the morning. Watch how boom, 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 look at all those isobars getting added. Low pressure bombing out, and that puts more northerly winds on the backside and pushes the colder air farther to the south. So if we take a closer look at all of that before it departs, that means that you might get some rain here in southeastern New England as we get to the lull in the snow early tomorrow morning. So right in there. But that is where we could have a flash freeze, and that's when the cold air on the backside of this bombing out system brings the cold air back in, and that's when you could have some really heavy snow bands as well. So don't turn your back on what this system could do tomorrow afternoon as things ramp up again after the relative lull early tomorrow morning. So tomorrow afternoon, heavier snow and maybe a flash freeze. So that's why the winter weather advisories go all the way down to the coastlines of Connecticut and Rhode Island, Mike. And look at, again, two different humps. Two different thumps of snow here in Boston, and that flash freeze that could happen to your south. So this has got a long way to go as it really strengthens tomorrow.
Yeah, a whole kind of different sets of problems tomorrow for sure. Dr. Knabb, thank you for that. We know that Winter Storm Finn is going to be a problem maker for us as well. We are going to see a winter storm hit us across the Midwest, including around Chicago. Monday night, here comes the snow for you. And then beginning Tuesday, some heavier bands. Tuesday night, it may wrap up for you as temperatures then drop down below freezing. So are you ready for it? This was going to have a certain impact for us here. That's a look at the system around Lake Tahoe. Snowing hard for us right now. Spokane, snowy and windy for us, unfortunately. And this is where it's getting its start. It's going to trek its way across the Rockies and then take a turn a little bit more interior than what Ember is, and it is going to bring us pretty significant snow across the Midwest, we believe. And then we'll talk about severe weather across the South. All right, so let's talk about what's happening for us with our forecast and what we know right now. For some of you, it's going to bring some heavy snow and some significant wind. That's in the west, and then tomorrow, it's going to start to move. It intensifies tomorrow, then into Monday across the plains, and then snow and wind expected for the Midwest by likely Tuesday and could last for some of you into Wednesday as well. Here's a model depiction of the spin in the atmosphere. This thing really gets embedded in a trough here and pushes its way across the four corners. I think some really good snow's coming for you. Colorado, New Mexico, by early in the week. Look at the snow that's pouring down on us now in the plains. I think a place like Kansas City could get crushed with snow. Same for you in Omaha, the Quad Cities. A place like Chicago will really be in a band, we think, of really heavy snow if the low positions itself then just to the east of the lake. You could enhance the snow off of Lake Michigan here in addition to the synoptic snow that's coming down for you here, and it gets really windy as that low really intensifies. Winter storm warnings in effect here. It does include a good chunk here of the four corners. That does include around Flagstaff. Winter storm watches extend along I-70. Those could be upgraded to warnings depending on the snowfall rates, depending on the amounts of snow that are coming for us, and also depending on what those winds may do. But 5 to 8 inches will probably mean a winter storm warning here. There'll be some spots in the mountains where a foot or more of snow is on the way for you. All right, those gusty winds certainly play a factor in all this, so it'll be snowing hard at times, and then that snow will be blowing around. Could be looking at 40, 50-mile-an-hour winds, not out of the question at all. And notice the path of that snow. A pretty good footprint of snow, especially highlighted in purple there from around Topeka and Kansas City up through the Quad Cities and right there flirting with you in Chicago and Milwaukee. A whole lot to consider here. Considering, Dr. Knapp, we haven't had a real big snow here so far this season either. Last year we kind of got nickeled and dimed, but the other big component of this will be a significant severe weather threat, we think, across the south.
Yeah, it's not all about the snow with Winter Storm Finn. It's going to have a lot of impacts for a lot of people. So let's talk about how the track is going to be much different with this system as opposed to what we've had with Ember that started in Louisiana as the surface low yesterday and has gone over the southeast. But this trough, wow, is this going to cause a rapid ramp up in the surface low in a different spot than with Ember. So Ember's low formed here and came up into this zone, dropping all this snow. But watch how the surface low of Winter Storm Finn forms a lot farther north and west, a lot sooner, a lot stronger, a lot farther inland. So that is going to produce the snowfall footprint that Mike was talking about on the west and the central part of the U.S. But this brings a much more expansive area of moisture off the Gulf, instability, and a more significant widespread severe weather event as that low-level jet increases as the low itself strengthens. So that's a setup for severe weather next Monday night into Tuesday morning. And as we feared, that has been extended even farther inland than SPC did at the outset a couple days ago. And this will slide a cold front eastward. And so the severe threat goes into a larger area of the southeast than what we saw in Florida today. With Finn, could have some isolated flooding in the southeast. But then watch what happens as that low goes over the Great Lakes. The high in Philadelphia, the cool air on Tuesday morning, gives way to a warm southerly flow that sends the temperatures up near 60 degrees on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. Warm temperatures will melt the snow, but so will a lot of rainfall. So up in that zone, after the severe weather threat, we have a significant flood threat that could really be a high-end event with heavy rainfall and snow melt in a part of the country, Mike, that has had way too much rainfall, and coastal flooding and winds could be damaging as well.
Absolutely, Dr. Knapp. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. I hope you can stick around. A lot more to come here on the Weather Channel, back live to our teams out there in the field, showing you the snow right now. And also, don't forget, you can get our Winter Storm Special stream on TWC.com. Also can find us on Amazon Fire TV, Roku TV. We're back right after this.
Watch the Weather Channel for continuing coverage of Winter Storm Ember. Get trusted updates on the storm on the Weather Channel and the Weather Channel TV app.
All right, meteorologist Chris Bruin here in Hartford, Connecticut. Still dealing with light snow and temperatures right at the freezing mark, but that's all about to change. I want to show you a little bit before we get to the radar. You can see what we've seen so far. It's been snowing for about an hour. We've seen a coating. You can see the tops of the cars that have been parked on the side of the street. They're covered in white. The awnings have seen a little bit of snow here off to my left. You can see just on the top. So rooftops probably look the same. A little bit of white on the grassy surfaces, and that's about as much snow as we've seen. But this is nothing compared to what we're going to be seeing here over the course of the overnight and then throughout the day tomorrow. So come walk with with me. This is Trumbull Street. This is the main drag here in downtown Hartford, the capital of Connecticut, and we're away from I-95, so we're away from the water, all right? So as we walk this way, I wanted to show you, because the snowfall that you see here, this is light snow. The flake size has certainly picked up, so we're boosting up that moisture content, and it's about to change in a hurry. In fact, if we can, I want to show you the radar, because the heavy snow is just south, literally by a few miles. So it won't take very long for that to come in. And when it does, visibility is going to crash and the accumulation is going to start to ramp up. That's probably going to be the height of our storm. This is the band that we're watching that's going to produce the bulk of the snow, we think, at least from now through about the late night hours, getting into 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. After that, probably taper off a little bit. We may even be in a lull by the sunrise, and then we'll ramp things back up again as we get much colder air and our storm kind of transitions off the eastern part of New England. So 6 to 10 inches is a solid snowstorm, Mike, for this part of the country. It may not be a historic storm by epic proportions, but it's one of the larger storms we've seen in about 3 years. So from the locals I've talked to, they are very excited, as am I.
That they should be. Listen, it's going to be fun when they wake up in the morning and see a nice big blanket of white. Chris, thank you. And more from Chris coming up. Let's show you what we know right now about Winter Storm Ember. The airlines are warning people right now you've got to prepare for flight delays and cancellations, so keep checking with your airline in that regard. Amtrak modifying its service due to winter storms, and New York has deployed more than 1,600 large plow trucks statewide to help clear those roads. The storm is really starting to crank right now. Will only, we think, get more intense as we go through the night and the day tomorrow. And the snowfall rates then, as a result, will start to pick up. You can see where that rain snow line is, kind of right in here, right on along I-95, New York and northbound. It's snow. You can see some heavier banding now, northern New Jersey up through the Poconos here, the Lehigh Valley, and the snow is really going to start to increase in intensity here across southern New England in the hours ahead. Snow for you in Scranton right now. New York, you're 36. You have rain. Probably going to stay rain most of the night tonight. May go over to a little bit of snow tomorrow, but I don't think a whole lot. Albany, we have some light snow. Rome, Fort Drum, Middlebury. Notice how much colder the temperatures are once you get up there. Temperatures are in the upper teens or 20s. You might be looking a little bit more powdery snow than the heavier wet snow farther south. A place like Brady, a half a foot has come down for us in Shepherdstown, 4 inches, and about a quarter inch of freezing rain about Hamilton here. So there have been different types of precipitation throughout the day today. Some places icy, some places snowy, some places just plain old rain. In Whitehall Township, this is outside of Allentown. We picked up about 6.5 inches of snow. In Montgomery Township here, 2.1 inches of snow came down for us. That's going to be right here just outside of Edison, New Jersey. Johnson City, 3 inches of snow just outside of Binghamton, and in Beach Lake here, 1.5 inches of snow. These numbers are really going to start to go up through the night tonight, though, as the snowfall rates begin to pick up for us here. Again, you don't have to go far out of the city to see the snow. It's rain right now in Central Park, but head up to maybe like a Bridgeport. Temperature's just a little bit colder, and it's 34 degrees for us. So a couple of degrees makes a big difference here, Dr. Knapp. But, you know, snow out on Long Island, it's probably not happening for us tonight. And New York, for the most part, stays wet tonight.
Yep, and you'll get the cold air coming in just too late to catch the moisture, right?
Yep, bad timing.
Yeah, so let's time it out for a couple of the cities and the metro areas that are dealing with this surface low that has now come off of the Delmarva near the Jersey Shore. Here's the moisture coming into the cold air into northeastern PA. That's where we've got the heavy snow axis starting to set up and then make its way eastward. And let's take a look at what's going on here in the Scranton area up toward Binghamton. This is a zone where we've got well below freezing temperatures by several degrees, and that's where we've got the heavy snow at times that will continue. You're going to stay in the cold air and get one more, round of light to moderate snow tomorrow morning on the back end of this before things start to improve in the afternoon. How much more snow yet to go? 2 to 3 in Scranton, maybe 4 to 5 up in Binghamton. You go up into higher up into the mountains near Oneonta, could get up to another half a foot yet to go. And as Mike was mentioning, in New York City, we are less and less on the edge. The air temperature is warming up. There's been quite the mix there, not getting much in the way of accumulations, and we're going to get more and more into the rain as the night and early Sunday morning go on. Now, as we get to late tomorrow morning, maybe a little bit of a mix starts to fall again as the low strengthens and moves off to the east. But by the time that northerly flow takes shape and the air gets colder, the storm's going to be too far away to generate lift. And so the snow that's going to accumulate from this point forward is going to be well north of New York City, northern New Jersey, and elsewhere in the state of New York. Here goes the surface low off to the northeast, so you're going to be thumped with some heavy snow in Massachusetts overnight.
The power of the Weather Channel, now available to everyone.
This is epic!
Trusted live coverage when it matters most is now yours to stream with the Weather Channel TV app, real-time radar, maps that let you track all the action, and so much more. Available now on these platforms. Go to streamtwc.com to start your free 7-day trial.
All right, welcome back into the Weather Channel. A lot to cover here across the Northeast. We've seen totals as high as 7+ inches in parts of Pennsylvania, and we could get over a foot in parts of southern New England just because we're going to see even more moisture flung in from the Atlantic across this part of the country overnight and into the day tomorrow. I'm in Harford, Connecticut, and this is the heaviest snow that we have seen. It really is. I mean, goodness, you look up and doesn't it look idyllic? You've got the leftover Christmas decorations. A lot of folks are in the process of taking down their Christmas trees. I've noticed a lot of trees on the curb, but there's several homes that still have their Christmas lights up. I mean, New Year's was just last week. And so it just looks like a movie set, doesn't it? It's a beautiful spot here in central Connecticut. You got quaint little New England villages and townships, and a lot of folks here are really looking forward to the snow. Now, one thing I'm noticing, the temperatures, they're down below freezing. We're sitting right around 31, 32 degrees. The snowfall rate has picked up. Now, the ground is starting to take on some white. So we're getting to that point now where the rate of melting, these are treated surfaces, so that's why you're seeing them melt. The surface itself is below freezing, so the snow's already accumulating. We already have a dusting on many of the awnings and the rooftops of cars and homes and businesses. But here on the street now, this is the first time we've seen it starting to accumulate, even with the salt and the treated surfaces, because the snow that's melting, the rate at which it's falling is actually heavy enough to overcome that melting process. So this is when things are going to start to get slushy, and very quickly we're going to see snow-covered roads here, probably within the next 30 minutes to an hour. So conditions are already deteriorated south of Hartford, and that heavier snow band is now on the way in. So this is going to be with us now from about now through the middle of the night. And we may see a let up at times, and we actually may see even heavier snow than this as we continue into the overnight hours. And then by Sunday morning, we'll see a little bit of a lull. And then we're going to crank things back up again later tomorrow morning and into early tomorrow afternoon as our storm continues to push off of New England. So it's picking up moisture all along the way, and the bands could exceed 1 inch to 2 inches per hour. So we're looking for an overall snowfall total here in Hartford, Mike, at about 6 to 10 inches, with some spots over a foot in northwest Connecticut and western parts of Massachusetts.
Chris, I wanted to ask you about the consistency of the snow that you're seeing right now, how that might change overnight and tomorrow as we think a little bit colder air may come in there.
Yeah, you know, when we started, Mike, it was very fine, dry snow. The flakes have definitely picked up in intensity. We don't have a ton, but it's a high water content. So when I go like this, it really is just it's just like slush, and it's great compacting snowball making snow. So it's a pretty high water content snow. I do think we're going to stay on that wet snow side of things just because a lot of areas south of here are going to be on that mix of rain and snow. We've already seen that changeover in places like New York and even down in Bridgeport in coastal Connecticut.
All right, Chris, thanks so much for the update. It is quite the scene there. There's no doubt about that. It is truly quintessential New England there. Looks great. Chris, thank you very much. And we'll have more with Chris coming up here in just a little bit. But ultimately, I want to talk about what's going to happen, you know, with this system, what happens with the next system, because there's a whole lot on our plate here, Dr. Knabb.
Yeah, Finn is really going to bring it all. It's going to be an even more powerful system overall, Mike. And it is going to do some things in the Northeast that are bad, even though you're not going to get as much snow on the I-95 corridor. The snow's going to start out west, and we've got all kinds of winter storm watches now into the plains, the warnings and advisories in the Rockies. There is the beginnings of what Finn is going to do as it crosses the country, with a very potent surface trough that's going to amplify as it crosses the Rockies. And as it does, a pretty decent swath of snowfall, not just in the mountains, but coming out into the plains. So the path of the surface low is going to be a lot farther north and west than what Ember has done starting on the Gulf Coast. And we could even get some blizzard conditions as this large and powerful low pressure system cranks up and brings that moisture from the Gulf of Mexico way up into the cold air. And that more expansive moisture and instability from the Gulf of Mexico means a more substantial severe weather episode here Monday night into Tuesday as that front slides across the southeast. That severe risk goes all the way up into southern Arkansas, concentrated down on the Gulf Coast states. And then that surface low will be intensifying as it heads toward the Great Lakes instead of coming off the east coast of the U.S. So that means a snowfall event for some big cities in the Midwest like Chicago, maybe Kansas City. And the models are in remarkably good agreement in that zone. So big cities like Chicago haven't gotten the snowfall in a while, could get a substantial amount. Now you notice I-95 not looking at a whole lot of snow. As the system moves east, the warmth comes into the southeast farther north than what we saw today, and that's why the severe weather risk goes all the way up into places like Georgia and South Carolina. The other thing is this system, as it cranks up, could bring damaging winds, more coastal flooding, and melt the snow from Ember to cause a lot of problems along I-95 without a lot of snow.
Watch the Weather Channel for continuing coverage of Winter Storm Ember. Get trusted updates on the storm on the Weather Channel and the Weather Channel TV app.
It may be January 6th, but it's never too late to get the first snow of the season. We've had some snow in Connecticut before this event, but this is the first real snow of winter here for the 2023-2024 season, and we're going to get a lot of it. The heavier snow has certainly started to pick up, and you can see it, folks kind of liking it. What do you guys think of the snow?
Oh, it's fantastic!
Yeah?
Oh,
Yeah?
I'm on! I love you!
So for a Saturday night, there are folks out, not as busy as it's typically, but there are still some folks out trying to have a good time. We actually had a Disney on Ice showing all throughout the day, and there was one that just let out, so a lot of the families now have been able to get home as conditions are starting to deteriorate somewhat. And they'll continue. In fact, in 5-10 minutes, this went from brick to white. So the snow accumulation is starting to pick up. We're getting into that ½ to an inch per hour, and this is going to continue. The flake size has really picked up, and it really makes for quite the scene. Now, winds aren't all that strong with this system, but visibility has come down because of the heavier rate of the snow. And the heaviest snow is going to continue from later this evening through the overnight and into the early part of early tomorrow morning. After that, we'll get a little bit of a break, and then heavier snow pushes in behind it. But we're here on Pratt Street, right in downtown Hartford. There's some really cool communities and really cool districts here in the capital of Connecticut. And, you know, on an average year, we typically see about 50 inches of snow. Last year, we saw 25 inches. And so that was about half of what we typically see. So it was well below average winter. And yeah, we had some snow, but we didn't have any big storms last year. And we didn't really have any nor'easters. So a lot of folks here, it's been a couple of years since we've had a good solid snowstorm. And from the folks that I've talked to today, they're very excited about the snow. Folks want to get out and play in it. I can assure you everybody will be out tomorrow playing in the snow, shoveling the sidewalks, and just taking it easy on a Sunday here in New England with some of the heaviest snowfall totals right here in Connecticut, parts of Massachusetts, northern Rhode Island, and the Hudson River Valley. So it's something we're going to have to watch closely. We've already seen 6 to 8 inch snowfall totals in Pennsylvania and Maryland already, but we're going to get even higher amounts because of higher moisture content and even heavier snowfall rates as our system really kind of intensifies off the New England coast. Now, right at the coastline where I-95 sits, you go south of Hartford towards New Haven, Bridgeport, and down into Stonington and Mystic. You're going to run into that rain snow mix, and that could allow for a huge drastic cutoff on the overall accumulations. Even though a lot of those areas, even in Stamford, Connecticut, we've seen snow-covered roads this evening and heavier snowfall rates. So it's here, Mike. We had to wait a little bit, but it is here. Came in about an hour or two later just because we had some dry air to contend with. But now that the rate has picked up, we're going to be in this for quite some time. And I think the bulk of the accumulating snow will happen over the next 6 to 10 hours.
And don't you get this feeling, Chris, that really Hartford is one of those cities it's really in the sweet spot for heavy snow out of this?
Yeah, it is. It kind of lies in a valley. We're low in elevation, but we're surrounded by hillsides and small mountains that rise up over 1,000 feet. And we kind of get away from that influence by the Atlantic Ocean.
And then tomorrow morning, it's probably going to look, if you look at just kind of extrapolate out the snowfall rates that we're dealing with now, by the time you wake up in the morning, I mean, probably minimum half a foot in Hartford, if not more.
That's what I'm thinking, about 6 inches by the morning, and then maybe an additional 2 to 3 throughout the day tomorrow with some secondary bursts around lunchtime.
It is a winter wonderland there, Chris. It looks amazing. Wait until you see it. Tomorrow morning it's going to look even better. Chris Bruin, appreciate the report. Thank you very much for that. And we'll have more from Chris coming up, as well as Mike Seidel. So you want to stick around for those reports. Dr. Knabb, though, the one thing that we have to consider is we've got this low that may intensify even more tomorrow, and the snowfall rates that in place like where Chris is, or maybe even more toward Boston, are going to get even higher.
Yeah, so with the hurricane, the storm isn't over when landfall occurs.
Right.
A nor'easter is not over just when the low goes just past you.
Yeah.
There can be a backside that can be really potent, and in this case, I think that is going to happen. Our low is strengthening, not really rapidly yet, as it comes off the Delmarva, just off the Cape May and Atlantic City, New Jersey coastline. So on the north side of that, we've had some pretty strong winds in that southeasterly to easterly component of the wind. Atlantic Highlands there up near Sandy Hook, 43-mile-an-hour gusts. Atlantic City gusted to 44, so 40 to close to 50-mile-an-hour gusts already. And winds are coming to southeastern New England tonight and tomorrow. And so the winds will be increasing. You'll get a true nor'easter in Boston with those northeasterly winds, and you're going to have two pretty distinct periods of potentially heavy snow with maybe a relative lull around breakfast time tomorrow. Why is that? Well, part of it is because of the intensity of the low after it passes by southeastern New England. So here it is by tomorrow morning, but then after that time, as it moves off to the east, it's going to be perhaps pretty rapidly intensifying. And so what that does is after you get the relative lull in the snow, maybe get some rain coming a little bit farther inland from the coast, the northeasterly flow, when it's really a nor'easter, is going to maybe bring some mesoscale banding in and have stronger snowfall rates, and then that northerly flow brings the cold air and the snow back to the coastline. So places where it rained, you could get a flash freeze on the backside of this. So don't think just because you don't get a ton of snowfall accumulation that you can't have dangers on the road tomorrow. That's why you've got the winter weather advisories all the way down to the coastlines of Connecticut and Rhode Island. The only thing that's left out is the Cape and the islands. And the winds are going to howl. We're going to be gusting here in southeastern New England 50 to 60 miles an hour. You add the heavy wet snow, with the strong winds, you could get some power outages, and the dangers from this winter storm continue tomorrow. So does our special live coverage of Winter Storm Ember. And it's not just about coastal areas. Way up in places like Ithaca, New York, it's going to be snowing really hard tonight into tomorrow.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of Winter Storm Ember. I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel here in Natick, Mass, outside of Boston, and the snow is just getting underway. Our temperatures are still running just above freezing, so in the short term we're okay, but overnight tonight as the intensity picks up and the temperatures come down to and below freezing out here, already 30 and snowing in Worcester. Logan Airport right now 35 and light rain. So again, in the city, the amounts will be cut back because of the temperatures being generally above freezing for the entire event. Meanwhile, from the MassDOT folks, highway districts have activated their storm desks and are now in snow and ice operations. They've got 876 pieces of equipment out there checking out the roadways, pre-treating, spreading, and they'll be plowing eventually as the intensity picks up to at least an inch an hour in this area. So Mike Bettis, just getting underway here in Massachusetts, the first significant snowfall in 2 years. And by tomorrow this time out here, we're looking at 6 to 8 inches. You get out to Worcester and Lowell beyond 95 out to 495, maybe double-digit totals. And then in Boston, it's going to be a tough call. 2-3 inches, slushy. And then south of there, the totals drop off towards the Cape and the islands. And, Mike, the big concern really tomorrow is once we get past 4 o'clock, sundown is 4:30, and we lose the insulation, and the temperatures are going to crash. So it's going to be very icy. All that slush freezes up for Monday morning back into work and school.
Mike, what could it look like if you're going to head, say, west on the Mass Pike out of Boston? What's it going to look like for you tomorrow morning?
It's going to be slushy. You know, they're going to be plowing that highway, and they're going to salt it. Temperatures are not going to get too far below freezing, maybe 28, 29 degrees. But I wouldn't be surprised if they had some speed restrictions on the Mass Pike once you get out of Boston. Maybe down to 45 miles an hour, certainly early on. And then as we get into the daytime and temperatures check up just above freezing and the snow intensity backs off, maybe they'll take care of that, and that'll get the speed limit back up. But tomorrow morning, it is going to be slushy and tough to get around, especially outside of the city of Boston, where temperatures will be at or below freezing, certainly before sunrise.
Mike, what if we go north here? We go up to like a Portsmouth or a Portland. You feel like we're less or more influenced by the Atlantic there?
Well, you'll have the influence, but you're going to be deeper in the cold air, so I don't think there's going to be any issue with the rain in Portsmouth or Portland, for that matter. They're looking for significant snowfall. As you saw, we had rain, Maryland, Delaware, Jersey coast. It's changed over in New York City. It's going to change over along the Connecticut coast, and here on the South Coast, the South Shore, and the Cape and the Islands. It may be snowing now, but most of what falls will be rainfall. But as you get up in the state of Maine, you're going to be, I think, safe from any mixed precipitation for the most part.
Yeah, good analysis there, Mike. Mike, thank you very much. More with Mike coming up here in our next hour, so you want to stick around for that. In the meantime, I want to bring in Dr. Knapp, talk a little bit more about the one that comes in behind this. Yes, it's going to bring some snow, but it's also going to bring a pretty good chance for some heavy rain, maybe a chance for some severe weather flooding.
Yeah, we saw what happened in the Fort Lauderdale area today with our winter storm Ember. But Finn is going to take a different track and put a lot more land areas at risk for severe weather. This trough that is bringing winter storm Finn across the country going to take a different path. So this is the path that the low of Ember has taken. And so the severe weather risk was south and east of that. But look at what Finn is going to do, the low cranking up a lot sooner, a lot farther north and west, a lot farther inland. So that puts a lot of the southern plains, the lower Mississippi Valley in the moisture, the added instability, and the strengthening low adds to the low-level jet to produce low-level wind shear to go with the deep layer wind shear. That's why the severe weather risk goes as far inland as it does from Texas over to Georgia and the Florida Panhandle. And especially along this warm front, the low-level winds will be turning east-southeasterly, and then a few thousand feet up, they turn out of the southwest. That's the low-level wind shear that could get the updrafts rotating. Then you'll have the deep layer wind shear to organize the storms and along and ahead of that cold front. So all modes of severe weather possible. And then that moves to the east in your warm sector a lot farther north, as is the low as compared to with Ember today. So that's why the severe weather risk is going to be a lot farther inland in the southeast with the flood risk as well, Mike. So we got severe weather risk all the way into Carolinas on Tuesday.
The severe weather risk is there. And then think about this. We're going to put some heavy rain potentially on top of some snow that comes down, but it's not going to take a whole lot of rain to cause some additional flooding. There's some areas here in the tri-state where it may take less than half an inch of rain to cause additional flooding. If we get that with Finn, it's almost a slam dunk. We think at this point we're going to expect some flooding here, and that could be very close to Newark and New York. There's the low in the center of it, sitting very close to like St. Louis. Now Tuesday late morning, really cranking up the winds on the front side of that. But look at all this warm air, and just about everything in the Northeast becomes generally rain for us here. In some spots where you've had rain, or some spots where you had some heavy snow, then you get rain on top of that. A very effective snow melter, and this is why we're seeing likely flooding in the forecast here, especially centered there in northern New Jersey. We'll keep you up to date on that. And of course, due to our live storm coverage we have for you right now, you're probably expecting to see tomorrow night a brand new episode of Highway Through Hell. We're going to move that actually to next Sunday at 8 o'clock. And then at 9 o'clock that same night, you're going to see 2 new back-to-back episodes of the Emmy-nominated Earth Unlocked. Again, that's all moving to next Sunday, January 14th. And we're back right after this.
Guys, check this out. Look at the flakes that are coming down right now in downtown Hartford, Connecticut. The heaviest snow that we have seen in quite some time, in the first real snowstorm in really a couple of years. We had some light snow events last season, but we are well below average when it came to snowfall. And boy, have things turned around in about an hour's time, and we had no snow on the ground. And now it's like the whole city's awakened, and everyone's kind of coming out, looking at the scene. Got crews and families down there in the distance. And just look up for a second. Look at the flakes. They're beautiful here in downtown Hartford. Heavy snow will continue and even get heavier as we go into the late night hours tonight. And by tomorrow, we're expecting anywhere from 6 to 10 inches of snowfall here across central Connecticut, with locally higher amounts in southern New England. Let's check in on conditions about an hour and a half to our east in Natick, Connecticut, or Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. Hey, Mike, what's the latest?
Hey, Chris, the latest is the snow is underway here in Natick and the Boston suburbs across most of the entire state of Massachusetts now, except Logan Airport, last check, reporting rain at 35. So, again, it's all about the temperatures closer to the coast. It doesn't get as cold tonight, maybe not even getting below 2 or below freezing. So that's going to lower the overall storm accumulations. But back here in the interior, 95, 495 stretch out the Mass Pike into the Berkshires. It's going to be plenty cold for it to be all snow, and much like where Chris is, we're going to see 6 to 8 inches here, some double-digit totals, but the city of Boston, Bettis and Dr. Nab are going to be looking at probably 2 or 3 inches, a lot of slush, and then the refreeze quickly as the sun sets later tomorrow.
That is Mike Seidel in Massachusetts, Chris Bruin in Connecticut. Welcome in, everyone, to the Weather Channel headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia, alongside our expert, Dr. Rick Nab. I'm Mike Bettis. We've got complete coverage for you here of Winter Storms Ember as well as Winter Storm Finn. We're going to get back-to-back storms here, Dr. Nab. They're going to clobber us in the Northeast and Midwest.
Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about what Ember is going to do tonight and tomorrow, but Finn is going to affect so many people from coast to coast, including melting some of Ember's snow next week.
That's going to be an important forecast to watch. So we've got that for you coming up here in just a little bit. But of course, if it's snowing, you got to grab the sled and you got to head to the park and do some sledding. That's for sure. Here in Hawthorne, New Jersey, that's exactly what they're doing. Northern Jersey's seen some pretty good snow today. Back toward the Poconos, through the Hudson Valley, on your way up toward the Capital District in Albany. These are all spots that have had good snow this evening, and more snow is coming for you overnight tonight. And wait till you see the sledding hills tomorrow morning. They will be slamming. I can guarantee you that, especially with some spots likely to pick up half a foot to a foot of fresh snow. You can see where that rain snow line is, generally setting up along I-95, New York. You've had some mix today. Your rain now. The snow is heavier around Scranton. Central Park is 36 with rain. You go up to Poughkeepsie, you've got the snow. Notice some of the reports that we're getting now. 4 inches, 4.5 inches. So it's really starting to pile up for us now, and we'll get some heavier bands overnight tonight. So the snowfall rates may go up, and your accumulations may start to really tally up now. Brady, here in Maryland, we've picked up 6 inches of snow. In Shepherdstown, 4 inches of snow's come down for us. And then some places where we've had some freezing rain, about 1/4 inch is about the most we've seen so far. But notice where the snow is now. Rome, Middlebury, Lebanon, Albany's got some snow, 29 degrees for us right now. We haven't had huge accumulations here yet, but it hasn't been snowing in these locations that long. Farther south, you've had some heavier snow because you've been snowing longer. Poughkeepsie's got heavy snow and it's 30 right now. Hartford, we have moderate snow, 32. Boston, rain and 37, but it should change over to snow tonight. Let's go right to one of the spots where it's snowing pretty good right now. That includes in Hartford with meteorologist Chris Bruin. Chris, we're just now getting into the thick of this. Through the night tonight, it's going to be really coming down for us here, and some pretty good accumulation overnight tonight.
Yeah, that's probably when we get the bulk of our storm total. It will be tonight, and by the morning we could easily have a half foot or more of snow on the ground. We'll have a lull likely after sunrise, and then another burst in the late morning, early afternoon hours. Could squeak out another 2 to 4 inches. So overall, we're looking at anywhere from 7, 8, 9, even possibly over 10 inches, not just here in Hartford, but across central and northern Connecticut. Some areas could see over a foot of snow, which is one of the bigger storms we've seen in quite a few years. So we're no stranger to snow, but everyone here is excited about it, is what I'm getting at. I've talked to a lot of people. I've met you guys just down the street. We obviously saw Gino, that's the dog, playing around the snow. So Allison, Brendan, and Corey, you guys have lived in Connecticut your whole lives?
Yes.
Yes?
Born and raised.
Born and raised?
Oh,
so you guys have been in big snowstorms.
Yeah, no stranger to it, but it's just exciting to see.
So talk to me about this one. Are you guys excited about it? What's going through your mind?
Yes, we're happy we finally have snow.
Yeah?
We've been waiting all week. It's been a while for some good snow.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's really festive, happy to see it.
So what about last year? Did you guys get much snow?
No.
No? Just lots of little storms?
Skiing was terrible.
Skiing was terrible? You guys big skiers?
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah. So what's the plan when you wake up tomorrow?
Riding in Bushnell Park.
All right. Is that the spot?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Taking Gino out in the snow, Bushnell Park. It's going to be great.
So let's say hi to Gino for a second. Gino likes the snow. You said he was just down in Florida. You guys were down in Florida for Christmas?
Yeah.
Yeah? So what a shock, right? Over the last week or two, going from Florida where it's much warmer than here.
Like, why do I have a coat on?
Yeah. Hey, Gino, do you like the snow?
Oh, he loves it.
Sit down, buddy.
So from what you guys have seen in the forecast, when did you guys start to pick up on the storm? When did you start to think, okay, we might actually get some snow out of this?
Like earlier this week.
Yeah.
Corey's like a big weather guy, so he's been prepping us, and we've been like hoping for big snow totals because, like you said, it's been a while since we had a good storm, so we can't wait for it.
What's your favorite thing about Connecticut in the snow?
Probably skiing or snow day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a teacher, so we love snow days.
Now, do you like it that it's happening over the weekend?
No, I don't. I wish it was tomorrow night.
Okay, I want to ask you a meteorological question. Not that it's just more of okay. So after this snowstorm, we've got another storm on the way, but it's going to be rain, wind, 50 degrees. I mean, what do you get? We could see flooding.
I know.
Are you guys prepared?
No.
No?
Not the same without snow.
Yeah, it's too much whiplash.
Yeah. You seem like that's kind of been the trend lately?
Yep.
A lot of all over the place. All right, well, enjoy the snow. Gino, get out there and enjoy the snow. Thank you, guys. And I think their reactions kind of sum up what a lot of New England's feeling. And, Mike, I got to ask you, from what I've seen, everyone here is very stoked about the snow, obviously, as am I. And I know you, too, very excited to get into some of that moderate to heavy plus snow. What's the latest conditions there outside of Boston and parts of Massachusetts?
Well, you know what it's going to be like. Remember growing up as a kid, you're looking out the window like every 30 minutes to see if it started snowing, Chris, and then how much is on the ground and do we have school? Well, this is coming on a weekend, so the impact is going to be much lower, no school. A lot of folks don't work on Saturday and Sunday, so it's a perfect timing for the first really significant snowfall in 2 years. By the way, by tomorrow morning, in fact, in a few hours, this ground will be covered, and for the first time in a while, everybody will be able to get out and sled and make snowballs and have a snowball fight.
It's probably been about 2 years since last year there was no snow, but this year there is snow. I'm hoping just like 10 inches maybe, which was what my dad said. And yeah, I'm excited for hitting my friend's face with snowballs. I'm gonna sled down and hit people.
He can't wait to make that snowball and throw it at his friends. I can't wait to make a snowball either. Maybe we'll do a little snow angel action tomorrow if we have enough snow on the ground. By the way, the intensity is going to pick up, and our temperatures out here will drop to and below freezing. There goes the salt truck right there, right here off the Mass Pike, dropping the salt down. So they're out here taking care of what's going on out here with the snow falling. So, Dr. Nab, it may be winter here, but down in Florida today, it was all about severe weather. Los Olas and A1A, the elbow room. I hope they didn't sustain too much damage, but boy, things were cranking there around sundown today.
Yeah, you've got a powerful system bringing a lot of moisture way up to the north to the point we've got some thunder, lightning off the coast of New Jersey tonight, and that's feeding that moisture into the cold air into northwestern New Jersey, where we've got the 1 to 3 inch per hour snowfall rates continuing. The surface low has come off of the Delmarva. It's just off of Atlantic City and is in the process of strengthening. On that northern side, the pressure gradient's starting to tighten up, and it's tapping into all that moisture and that warmth, that's relative warmth that's in the Gulf Stream. So a lot of things in the atmosphere and the ocean feeding the strengthening of this system over the next 24 hours. Gusts over 40 miles an hour. We're going to have even stronger winds than this in southeastern New England, and we're going to have a couple of rounds of heavy snow in a place like Boston overnight tonight, but then another round tomorrow as the surface low strengthens as it is departing. So that's one of the ramifications of the potentially notable strengthening of this low tomorrow. But the other thing that's going to happen, and Mike Seidel alluded to this, is as the surface low gets a little closer, it takes the rain snow line a little farther to the north. So southern and southeastern New England, south of Massachusetts, will get some rain and some slush. But then as the low moves off to the east and strengthens, you get a stronger northeasterly to northerly flow in a nor'easter. And that brings cold air to bring the snow line back to the south, some banding with a stronger low to increase the snowfall rates. And then the cold air just rushes in tomorrow evening. So anything that was wet will flash freeze. And so that's why we've got winter storm warnings where you got the heavy snow expected, but winter weather advisories all the way down to the coastlines of Connecticut and Rhode Island. You're only leaving out the Cape and the islands. But what are you going to experience there? Strong winds as the low cranks up tonight, and especially tomorrow. You're going to get 40 to 50 mile an hour gusts here in southeastern New England. Mike, when you combine wet and heavy snow along with strong winds, we could have some power outages. But don't think just because you don't have heavy snow, you can't have dangerous roads tomorrow, even after the storm is departing.
100%. It definitely could happen. Dr. Nab, good update there. We also know that coming in behind all this is going to be another winter storm. It's going to be Winter Storm Finn, likely going to target the Midwest and the plains with some really heavy snow. Chicago, what's the timeline for us? Beginning Monday night, here comes the snow for you. Could be heavy at times Monday night into Tuesday, and then last through Tuesday night as temperatures are going to be in the 30s for you here. But I think Tuesday night in particular, as temperatures get down below freezing, could be a dangerous travel time for you. But I would anticipate some serious slowdowns on the roads as a whole, and likely going to see some pretty significant slowdowns at the airports as well. All right, walking you through this, what do we know right now about Finn? It's going to bring some heavy snow. It's going to bring some wind to the west tomorrow. That's where it's getting its start right now. Storm intensifies then tomorrow into Monday in the west and then the plains, okay? And then really heavy snow and wind expected for us here in the Midwest as we go early next week. Showed you the timeline there for Chicago. There's the spin. It gets embedded in a big trough here in the west. So the four corners get clocked with some snow. That snow rolls out into the plains early in the week. You can see on the north side and the west side of the system where the temperatures are the coldest. That's where you have the snow. The front side will have a lot of heavy rain, maybe even some severe weather. Watch that low track up toward maybe like a South Bend, Indiana. That cold air still plunging south behind that, and maybe some enhancement off of Lake Michigan as well for places like Chicago and surrounding suburbs. Winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories, winter storm watches in effect. I think you'll probably get these turned over to warnings along I-70 in Kansas. It's a time thing, right? I think eventually those tomorrow will become warnings, especially with 5 to 8 inches of snow in the forecast and wind. Really tough driving conditions on I-70. We're very exposed there because we just have no trees, right? And so they have snow guards there. They have gates they can close the on-ramps, but it could be a tough go there. Notice as we go early in the week, rain comes for you in places like Cleveland, Columbus, Pittsburgh, Buffalo. with the heaviest snow swath back here that could include Kansas City, maybe a place like the Quad Cities, and very near Chicago, maybe northern Michigan as well. A lot of snow to come here, but also plenty of rain to come as well, and maybe even chances for severe storms here, Dr. Nab, and then rain eventually into the Northeast in places that have already gotten some really heavy rain today.
Yeah, and Mike, because of the difference in the track of the low with Finn as compared to Ember, bigger area at risk for severe weather. Notice how Ember came this way with its surface low. We had severe weather down in South Florida today. But the surface low from Finn is going to form a lot farther north and west, a lot farther inland, and it will be strengthening a lot earlier in the game farther to the west. So Monday night into Tuesday morning, this surface low along that path is going to bring moisture and instability a lot farther north into the southern United States than Ember ever did. And as that low gets stronger, you get a stronger low-level jet to produce low-level wind shear that can produce the rotating updrafts. The big trough is going to produce the deep layer wind shear to organize the thunderstorms along ahead of that front. So that's why the risk area keeps expanding farther and farther north, and the risk level could go up as we get closer to this event, and it continues into Tuesday morning. And look how much farther north that severe weather risk goes than what we saw today with Ember. And we'll have some localized flooding on the roadways as that front moves on through. But speaking of flooding, watch what happens in a place like Philadelphia next Tuesday morning. With the high pressure behind Ember sitting overhead, Tuesday morning you cool off to near freezing. But here comes the low of Finn, ushering warm, moist air to the north that warms up during the day and the night. You're going to be pushing 60 degrees Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning. Warm temperatures will help melt the snow that what we're getting from Ember, but raining on top of the snow, that's a big snow melter, and that's why we've got the extension of the flood risk going up into the Northeast, and the risk level is a lot greater, Mike. Really concerned about that flooding, but also stronger winds and more coastal flooding than with Ember.
For sure. Dr. Knapp, appreciate that. Well, we know from coast to coast and everywhere in between, you can download the TWC streaming app. Here you can find updated alerts for storms, the forecast changing there day to day, hour by hour. Go to streamtwc.com. You can get it for Roku, Amazon Fire, and Google TV.
I'm meteorologist Chris Bruin here in downtown Hartford, Connecticut, where we're in that moderate snow. I've noticed in the last couple minutes it's transitioned. The flakes aren't nearly as big. It's more grapply-like. It's got a little bit of a ping to it. So we'll see a variety of precip types, mainly on the order of snow, but different types of flakes. The large fat flakes that really accumulate, that's what put us over the inch. We've already seen close to an inch or so. And look at road conditions here down Trumbull Avenue. And you can see snow covered, slushy, taking it slow like this car. Not a lot of folks out on a Saturday night. Typically this would be a lot busier, but just people, you know, kind of hanging in, looking forward to a snow night and waking up and getting a whole day to get out and play with it. So we saw these fine folks. In fact, the birthday girl, you said your name was Heather. Happy birthday.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So what'd you guys do to celebrate?
So we went over to what's this restaurant that we just went? Sunbury.
Okay.
Had dinner, and then we went to the ice cream shop and to a speakeasy and had a good time.
Yeah. So what is y'all's names?
Oh, so I'm Thimby.
Thimby?
Lakeisha.
Lakeisha?
Heather.
And do you guys live in Hartford?
I live in Bloomfield.
Okay, so nearby.
And in Windsor.
South Windsor.
Okay.
Yeah.
You live here your whole life?
Yes.
Yes? What do you think about snow?
Listen, we're New Englanders.
Right.
We're used to this.
Exactly.
That's why we're out. I'm from D.C. and I actually like the snow, so I'm kind of glad we're getting a little bit of snow here.
So you're saying they don't like it?
No. I'm not a snow person, but I'm used to the snow. I like my 4 seasons.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about last winter, because y'all didn't have a big snowstorm.
No, not at all.
So what makes this one exciting?
It's the first one.
First one?
It's the first one.
Yeah.
And it's
the new year.
Right.
Of the new year, and really this whole winter.
Three Kings Day.
Yeah.
So
what are you most excited about with the snow?
Just so my daughter can enjoy it, because it's been 3 years. She's 7 now, but she's like, it never snows, and we haven't had a Christmas with snow for a while.
Yeah.
So at least we have a new year with some snow on Mommy's birthday. So
Exactly.
So what's the plan when you wake up? Are you going to be like antsy to open the windows?
No. Listen, we're going outside, and the kids are going to have fun in the snow because I need them tired.
Oh, yeah. You know they're going to get tired.
Yeah. This is as much as outside I'm going to do in the snow right here. This is
Where's the snow jacket? You thought you could make it home before it snowed?
Exactly. I was like, oh, wait a minute, got caught. Yeah, that's okay.
Well, you guys enjoy your evening. Thank you so much. Happy birthday. Yes, we will. Y'all too.
All right.
And
thank you.
so, I mean, Mike, you just get the excitement feel, even from New Englanders, where snow is, the usual here in the wintertime. It almost feels like I'm covering like a mid-Atlantic storm where you just don't get as much. But we haven't had it in the last few years, at least to this magnitude. And so it is exciting. And it's also the first snow, which is also... It's exciting. And Connecticut's pretty in the snow, as is many places. Snow just changes things.
Yeah, there's a newness to it, right? And I think a lot of people get excited about that, especially when you kind of relive your youth, if you will, when it's a lot of fun when you're a kid, that's for sure. Chris, thank you very much. We'll have more with Chris coming up. You can see the snow that's accumulating on his hat and on his jacket there, so it has been coming down. And here's what we know right now about Winter Storm Ember. Of course, it's snowing. At times, it could be snowing hard. That means airlines telling folks prepare for flight cancellations and delays, especially tomorrow. Amtrak modifying its service because of the winter storm, and New York has deployed more than 1,600 large plow trucks statewide to help clear those roads. We definitely have some heavy snow bands that are coming through right now. The Poconos, the Tri-State, some really heavy snowfall rates here. There'll be 1 to 2 inches per hour. Rain south of that, so rain on Long Island, rain for you in New York, Philadelphia, then down through like south of Newark, I'd say, all the way down through New Jersey here. Binghamton, 28 with light snow, moderate snow for you in Albany, Middlebury, Lebanon. Your temperatures here are in the low to mid 20s, and you have the snow. Heavier snow is going to be here in southern New England. You've got pretty good snow now in Poughkeepsie. It's 30 degrees in Harford. We have the snow, but Chris was reporting that it's maybe mixing with a little bit of sleet there, or maybe some graupel. Notice what's going on for us here. Out on Long Island, I mean, it's all rain for us right now. Temperatures right now are in the upper 30s. Sussex, we're 30 with the snow. That's going to be the dividing line. It really is. In New York, oh, so close, Dr. Knapp. But probably going to stay all rain for us overnight tonight. Might get a little bit of snow tomorrow, but the system's ending by the time you're getting the snow in New York.
Yeah,
so
precipitation.
Hardly any accumulation.
Precip stops, then it gets cold.
Yeah.
Sorry, no snow
Bad
for
timing,
you.
Bad timing.
Now, you want the heavy snow? Got to go to northeastern PA. That's where we're getting some 2 to 3 inch per hour snowfall rates as the moisture wraps around the surface low and comes into this part of the storm here in northeastern Pennsylvania. That heavy band is translating off to the north and east, and in the Scranton area, that's where the snow has been very heavy, especially east of I-81 here in this zone. Now, look at Bear Creek. 3.5 inches an hour. They've gotten up to 11.5 inches as that band went by. Now, as we go through the night, the snowfall rates will decrease there, and they will increase here in south central New York. So a lot more yet to come there. And then tomorrow morning will be a lighter period of snowfall that extends to about lunchtime, and then the snowfall will be over. So we still have maybe half a foot or more here on the other side of the state line in New York from Scranton, and that's as the system moves off to the north and to the east. And we're going to have plenty of rain in New York City, as Mike and I just described. Cold, nasty rain, only 36 degrees in the Big Apple.
It's a cold, hard fact. No other news network out there is trusted more than the Weather Channel. Trusted to expertly time out your conditions.
This is the system that is headed your way.
Trusted to be the team that keeps you as ready for winter as we are. It's why America doesn't trust winter coverage to anyone else.
Welcome back into the Weather Channel's continuing live coverage of Winter Storm Ember. And remember, this is the first of two very impactful winter storms. In fact, the next one, Winter Storm Finn, which is just now moving into the West Coast, is going to be the stronger of the two and cause quite the mess from the Midwest to even here in the Northeast, but on a whole different setup. Much warmer conditions, but windy, wet, and the risk for flooding as we melt however much snow we get tonight, which we're expecting between 6 and 10 inches of snow. Let's don't focus on that one yet. Let's get through Ember, which this is our largest snowstorm we've seen in a couple of years. And we'll see how much we officially get at the end of this, but we're looking anywhere from 6 to 10 inches, with some areas getting up over a foot of snow. And that sweet spot looks to be from the Hudson River Valley across into southern New England, not northern New England. We'll get some snow in northern Vermont in the mountains and the ski resorts, but the higher totals are going to be farther south, closer to the moisture source. This is the first plow I've seen across the street. They're working on the sidewalk here outside the XL Center. This is downtown Hartford. Road conditions are slushy. We got a car right here. This is a Prius going slow, working their way through. Not a lot of folks out tonight. There were earlier before the snow began, but now things have really quieted down. And people have certainly been waiting on the snow. They've been hearing about it for a while now. We've been monitoring this forecast for about a week. And I will say the models had picked up on this early on, so we had a lot of lead time. And folks are prepared. They're prepared. This is the first snow, and there's a lot of excitement with this storm. So a lot of kids are wanting to wake up to a lot of snow on the ground. We've got about 1.5 inches. We're close to 2 inches around central Connecticut. Here in downtown, probably about 1 inch. And certainly as you work your way south to see where they've been in the snow a little bit longer, we've seen a little bit more than that. But it's a quiet night here in downtown Connecticut. The fact this is coming through on the weekend helps out. We don't have to worry about the logistics of school and work. Of course, there are some folks who do have to go out to work overnight or on Sunday, so be mindful of that. The morning looks rough as the streets are still likely going to be deep in snow, aside from the main thoroughfares. Those will be the first priority, and then getting into the residential streets. But as far as timing goes, really quickly, the heaviest snow will be overnight. By the morning, we'll get a little bit of a lull, and then tomorrow, Bettis, we could see some more bursts of heavy snow as some colder air works in. So even at the coast, where we switch over to maybe sleet or a wintry mix or even rain, we'll go back over to snow. We may even see some more light snow in New York for an hour or two before all is said and done.
It's going to be a fun one to watch. Tomorrow morning, just a complete change from what you saw when you went to bed, right? So it's going to be fun tomorrow morning for sure. Chris, thank you for that very much. We certainly know that Winter Storm Ember is not going to be the only game in town. On the heels of that one comes Winter Storm Finn. That means a fresh layer of snow across the plains, rain across the south for us, and you're taking a look right now at Houston. Maybe even some severe weather is possible along I-10. All kinds of things to consider here. So let's hand it over to Dr. Nab for a detailed look here at Finn, because it's got multiple seasons at play here, Dr. Nab.
Boy, it sure does, Mike. And the pattern over the continental U.S. is so highly amplified and energetic. Here's everything associated with Ember, and here comes Finn out west. We've got lots of winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings already in effect, and now the winter storm watches that go into effect in Kansas City on Monday morning, taking us through Tuesday. Those watches are in effect likely to go to warnings later on. Kansas City could get 4, 5, 6 inches of snow with winds 40 to 50 miles an hour, affecting your commutes on Monday and Tuesday. So it's not just about the Rockies, right? And we could have blizzard conditions north of that low, because the low is going to be so large and so strong, taking a different path than Ember has, as it really cranks up immediately and farther north as it ejects out of the Rockies. And that strengthening low is going to bring a lot more moisture and instability northward to have a much more expansive area and level of risk for severe weather on Monday night, into Tuesday. And then as that low goes over the Great Lakes, much farther west than Ember is, that's going to bring some gusty winds and snow to a lot of big cities, not just Kansas City, but maybe eventually places like Chicago could get in on the mix. And the models are in pretty good agreement on a heavy swath of snow there going through the Midwest and Great Lakes. But notice how the East Coast is not going to get nearly as much snow up into the Northeast. Severe weather continuing on Tuesday as that front slides around to the south of the low. But here's the other thing about Finn. As strong and large as it's going to be, it could produce much stronger, even damaging winds than Ember in the Northeast. It could produce much more coastal flooding in the Northeast than Ember has. And all of that rain that it's going to bring northward could melt a lot of Ember's snow and produce a significant flood event, not just in the Appalachians, but here in the Northeast. So coastal flooding and rain-induced flooding and snowmelt could be the big stories in the Northeast next week from Winter Storm Finn.
Watch the Weather Channel for continuing coverage of Winter Storm Ember. Get trusted updates on the storm on the Weather Channel and the Weather Channel TV app.
Welcome back. Full coverage of Winter Storm Ember continues as we are live in Hartford, Connecticut, as the snow is continuing to fall. Steady rate. Here comes looks like a Department of Public Works truck. They put some maybe salt down, trying to keep up with it. Didn't have a plow on that one, but they're treating the roads. Again, I think it takes about 2 inches before they start to get out there and plow. We've seen the sidewalks kind of being snow brushed. That's what's happening across the street. And you can get a feel for what it looks like. Kind of a quiet Saturday night here. It was busy earlier before the snow really started, but a lot of people have been hearing about the incoming storm and made their plans accordingly. They were able to get out yesterday and then kind of take it easier on a Saturday night. Now, there are a lot of events. We had a couple of Disney on Ice shows here at the XL Center earlier this evening, but the families were able to get home in time before the conditions really deteriorated. There's some big tournaments, big volleyball expos for regional schools that are taking place. So there's a lot of folks in town that have to travel tomorrow after the competitions and tournaments are over with. So that's something that a lot of folks are kind of iffy, like hopefully it's improves. I do think folks will be able to get around at times, but it's going to be the main thoroughfares that see the priority as far as keeping up with it, especially overnight. That's when conditions will be the worst. You have the lowest visibility. You obviously have the least amount of travelers, so you're not compacting that snow down, so it's able to build up more quickly. And the less folks that are out on the road, the better it is plain and simple. But I think most people are planning on having a snow day here on your Sunday. A lot of folks are planning on getting out sledding. It's been a while since we've been able to do that. A lot of folks are able to, even parents are probably going to take some turns building snowmen. But I will say, take a look at this. It's very compactable snow. It's a high water content. This is literally the best snow for making snowballs, for making snowmen. And it shows you the kind of moisture we're dealing with. And, Mike, from about an hour ago when we were getting those huge snowflakes, man, they were huge. I think we'll see more of that, but they definitely have thinned out a little bit. It's more fine particulates, snow coming down. It's still coming down at a moderate clip, but they're not nearly as fat as they once were. It's those fat snowflakes, Mike, that really accumulate quickly, and that's when you're getting into those heavier 1 to 2 inch per hour snowfall rates. We're going to get into more of that overnight. Western Connecticut in on it, and certainly the Hudson River Valley right now in central and lower New York getting hammered with some heavy snow.
Chris, and the temperature that we're dealing with, right, and the consistency of that snow, this is pretty good for crews, right? Like they can scrape right down to the pavement, with conditions like this.
Yeah, it's easy to keep up with, and they were pre-treating the roads the last 2 days. So they are, they've obviously been on it, and we didn't have to deal with rain, which makes things messy, especially when you have a storm that starts off as rain, then goes over to snow, washes all the pre-treatment. So this is really a good first storm to kind of get back out into the gist of winter for a lot of crews that haven't really had to deal with it in quite some time.
All right, Chris Bruin in Harford, Connecticut for us. Chris, thank you very much. Good looking scene there, no doubt about that. And a lot more snow is on the way. Here's where it's snowing heavily. You can see it happening there in the tri-state, but I think a lot of southern New England in particular really sees the heavy snow overnight tonight. And it all feels northbound for the remainder of the night tonight. The snow's coming down for you from Binghamton to Rome, Albany to Middlebury. These are all spots where the temperatures are a lot colder. You go farther north, the temperatures are, a solid maybe 6-7 degrees colder than other spots. Poughkeepsie, we have heavy snow, and it's 30 degrees right now. Boston, we're still in the rain, and it's 37, but you will go over to some snow. Out on Long Island, temperatures just too warm to get any snow. 39 right now in Brookhaven, Central Park, we have the rain. Just go north of New York, and you've got it. You're really into it. In Bridgeport, we're 33. We have the snow. Hartford, we have the snow, and more banding will come in for us here. Some of the bigger totals we've seen today, 7.5 inches for us across Maryland and Pennsylvania, but some of these totals will be eclipsed. Likely going to see some double-digit totals as we go through the night tonight and then the day tomorrow. So still a lot of legs left with this one, Dr. Knapp. Plenty of snow still to go, and it may only get more intense overnight in some spots, with this low maybe deepening a little bit more.
Oh, absolutely. North of that low in Massachusetts, like between midnight and 5 a.m., it's really going to snow heavily as we get all the dynamics in the atmosphere, including this really strong jet stream here that, in its left front quadrant, it's got the dynamics set up to really cause this surface low to continue to strengthen and at a greater rate once we get into tomorrow. Other thing that's happening is north of the low, we're going to have, up at about 10,000 feet, we're going to have frontogenesis, the temperature gradient getting intensified, and that adds to the lift in the atmosphere, adds to the snowfall rates, and that's what's going to happen overnight in Boston and places to the west of there. But then on the backside of the storm, we're going to have some northeasterly bands in a nor'easter that could really have high snowfall rates as we go into tomorrow afternoon. So watch how this surface low, as it's moving northeastward, actually by the time we get to breakfast time tomorrow, starts to move the snow line farther to the north as the low is closer to the coastline. So in the Boston to Providence corridor, we could have some rain, some mix, some slushiness going on in there. And the problem there is, as this low really strengthens pretty rapidly as it leaves southeastern New England, you could get the cold air coming in here and causing that rain and slush to flash freeze by tomorrow night. And you're bringing the snow back toward the coastline. So that's why you can't be fooled by that relative lull tomorrow morning and the lack of snow. In fact, you've got winter weather advisories all the way down from Boston through Providence down to the coastline of Rhode Island. You could have that flash freeze really cause problems on the roads even without having gotten the heavy snow tonight and tomorrow. Well, we have all kinds of continuing coverage here of Winter Storm Ember all the way from Virginia into Pennsylvania and especially there in the Northeast. More from our Chris Bruin and Mike Seidel when we come back.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of Winter Storm Ember. And then Finn is on the burner, and we're going to really switch our gears to covering Finn after we get through this tomorrow. Here in Natick, Massachusetts, I'm meteorologist Mike Seidel, just outside of Boston. It's raining at Logan right now and 36 degrees last check. Out here, we had some snow. Now it's just kind of spitting some wet snowflakes. That's about it. But the wall of snow is coming our way. Look at the radar, and you can see how it's been filling in over Massachusetts. You get down to the coast of Connecticut and Rhode Island, and that's where you get back to the rain because of the warmer air. But it's going to be pretty much all snow in Massachusetts, at least out here west of Boston. As you get south of Boston, the South Shore, the Cape and the Islands, and the South Coast, that's where we're going to have more rain than snow, and those areas are not even under a winter weather advisory, but the areas like Plymouth County have the advisory. So a real mess tomorrow. Watch out at Logan Airport. Right now, about 150 flights have been canceled. No uptick in that tonight, but again, tomorrow things will change as the snow falls overnight. Mike Bettis. And no doubt delays because of de-icing and more cancellations. And I think the real issue is going to be Monday morning when everything freezes up very quickly tomorrow at sundown as we try to get back into work and school.
Yeah, could get dicey, on the air or on the roads. Mike, thank you very much for the update there. And we're going to see the snow, we believe, pick up in intensity where he is overnight tonight. Let's talk about what comes behind this, though. We've got another storm we'll be following. It's Winter Storm Finn is going to bring some snow across the plains and Midwest. However, Dr. Nab, it's likely to bring some very heavy rain, likely to bring severe weather across the south.
Yeah, and that's primarily because Finn, its surface low is going to take a different track than what Ember did. Remember, Ember started along the Gulf Coast as a surface low and has come in this direction. But Finn, starting out here in the west, it is going to cause a surface low to form out here in the lee of the Rockies here in the central to southern plains. It's going to go head toward the Great Lakes. That has a lot of ramifications for what happens next week. So again, here was Ember's low, but watch what happens when the low comes out of the Rockies and forms in the lee of those mountains on Monday morning with Winter Storm Finn, forming over West Texas and Oklahoma and pretty rapidly strengthening Monday night into Tuesday morning. So that brings the moisture and instability a lot farther inland off the Gulf of Mexico than what we saw with Ember because it was down in here. And this strengthening low, look how large and strong this is going to be. A stronger surface low is going to have a much stronger low-level jet to produce low-level wind shear that is going to produce rotating updrafts. And that's why the severe weather risk goes as far inland as it does, and the risk level will probably keep going up. Stay tuned over the weekend as that gets modified. And with this warm front near the Gulf Coast, you're going to have east-southeasterly winds at the surface. You go a few thousand feet up in the atmosphere, those winds are going to turn south-southwesterly. Those hodographs, those low-level changes of wind shear with height mean rotating updrafts, and the large scale, the deep layer wind shear is going to organize the storms along and ahead of that front. All modes of severe weather are going to be possible. Then the whole front, the warm sector, moves to the east as the surface low heads toward the Midwest and the Great Lakes. So that's why on Tuesday we're going to have a severe weather risk along with the risk of heavy rainfall and flooding. So there is the zone at risk for severe weather Tuesday and Tuesday night. Remember, we had the severe weather, the tornado down in Fort Lauderdale today with a surface low that was going in this direction across the southeast. With Finn's low much farther to the north and west, look how far north that severe weather risk goes on Tuesday, along with some isolated flooding in the Appalachians. But Mike, the other thing about Finn is its surface low is going to produce stronger winds, more coastal flooding in the northeast. And then what about all the snow from Ember? What happens when you get all that rain on it?
We're going to melt a lot of that snow. Places that have seen heavy rain today are going to get heavy rain again. So it's pretty likely we're going to see some flooding in a few spots here in the Northeast. I want to show you this. This is our flash flood guidance. So it tells you how much rain is needed in a 1 hour period to create flooding. And notice we've got a hot spot here around the tri-state where we've got, an inch or less of rain will be needed in an hour to create some flash flooding. Some places it could be half an inch or less of rain could cause some flash flooding. So this is why we've got some bigger concerns with the next system that moves in. Again, there's where the low is going to sit, and it's going to force its way north and east. But all that heavy rain comes into the northeast. Very warm temperatures. Temperatures really climb for us here. And so you're melting snow because the temperatures are warming. Now you're putting rain on top of it. Becomes a very effective snow melter. On top of the location that had some heavy rain today, you're getting more heavy rain. There's wind. Trees could be susceptible to coming down because they've got a weakened root system. It's very wet. They may come over. I know we don't have any leaves on the trees right now. That's helpful. Doesn't mean it couldn't happen, though. And even going into Wednesday morning, some really intense weather is coming for you here. You can see where the hot spot is there for likely flooding going Tuesday into Wednesday, but large areas of flooding could occur even where the snowpack is. That's areas where we could have some really significant runoff happening for us. And you take a look at the temperatures. Again, one of the bigger factors as they get warmer and warmer and warmer. 30s, then 40s, then 50s, even maybe 60 in some locations, almost unheard of for the middle of January. Well, due to our live storm coverage here on the Weather Channel, if you're expecting to tune in tomorrow night for a brand new season of Highway Through Hell, we're going to move that to next Sunday at 8 o'clock. Then at 9 o'clock, you're going to see new back-to-back episodes of the Emmy-nominated Earth Unlocked. Again, that's all happening now next Sunday, January 14th. We'll be back with more live storm coverage right after this.
Welcome back into Weather Channel's continuing live coverage here of Winter Storm Ember. And, of course, we'll have the latest on Winter Storm Finn, which is impacting much of the West Coast. But the snow has begun here across southern New England. We're getting in on the action, too, in Massachusetts. It's been heavy at times, but now we're getting into more of that lighter snow. It's not as fat, and the rate has certainly come down. We've seen anywhere from 1 to 2 inches so far this evening, and we're expecting an additional 4 to 6 by the morning hours, and then possibly a few more inches throughout the day on Sunday. That could mean totals up into the double digits across southern New England, with some spots in the higher elevations getting close to a foot or more of snow. Let's see how conditions have fared this evening in Natick, Massachusetts, with meteorologist Mike Seidel, just to the south and west of Boston. Mike.
Hey, Chris, good evening. And again, the snow is picking up, but it's a wet snow. But we're not concerned. It is going to be covering the ground here shortly. And by this time tomorrow, we're expecting 6 to 8 inches out here in Natick. In Boston itself, we've had rain this evening after a little bit of wet snow. Temperature there is still 35, 36 degrees. So that's really the story. The temperatures tonight into tomorrow. In Boston, it may not even get down to freezing tonight. So that's going to cut down on the accumulations. But then later tomorrow, look out for the freeze. And Mike Bettis and Dr. Nab, we have a special treat in a few minutes. We have the Stansted hockey team from Stansted, Quebec, which is about 5 feet from the Vermont line. We're going to talk to them because they have to drive from here back to Quebec tomorrow in the snowstorm.
Oh, I'm not envious. Let's just put it that way. But they're probably not all that impressed with this snow if they're from Quebec. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess, from Mike. But welcome in, everyone. You are watching our special extended coverage of Winter Storms Ember and Finn. I'm Mike Bettis, along with our expert, Dr. Rick Nab. A lot to talk about here, Dr. Nab, and some places are going to get clobbered with snow tonight.
Yeah, and, not every hurricane is created equal. Not every winter storm is created equal. No. Ember and Finn have very different personalities. They're going to follow very different tracks, and we're also going to talk about how they will interact in some way.
It's going to be wild to see how all this plays out over the course of about the next 4 days or so, right? Boy, it has played out with a lot of snow in places like Hagerstown, Maryland today. We had some really good snow here in portions of Maryland, Pennsylvania. 7+ inches of snow came down, at times making it tough for drivers. You had to slow down, that's for sure. The big rigs going off the road into the median here. Tough for the mail trucks as well. Just take it slow, folks. The slower you go, the better you'll be off. But the other thing is, if you don't have to travel, but this is one of those weekends where just don't. You can stay home. There's a lot to watch on TV, Weather Channel, football, what you name it. Lots of ways to entertain yourself, that's for sure. All right, so here's what's happening right now. Rain snow line sits about right in here, very close to I-95. Philadelphia, Baltimore, D.C., you've been all rain today. New York, you've been mostly rain today, with the snow just north of the city and up through the tri-state. Long Island, it's been rain. Out on Cape Cod, it's been all rain for you. The last 24 hours have had pockets of heavy snow. That has included West Virginia, Maryland, up through central Pennsylvania, through the Poconos here. Northern New Jersey up through the Hudson Valley's had some pretty good snow. A lot of reports of snow for sure. About 700 reports of snow, about 24 freezing rain reports, mostly down through the southern Appalachians. Hardly any freezing rain anymore. It's either rain or it's snow. There's really not a lot of in between. Williamsport, we have the snow. Scranton no longer reporting any snow. New York, you've been stuck at 36. You've been stuck in that rain. Heavy snow for the last couple of hours in Poughkeepsie. Moderate snow, Hartford to Springfield to Albany, and you can see how the temperatures get incrementally colder the farther north you go. Let's go right into Hartford and show you what's happening right now with meteorologist Chris Bruin. Chris, when we first saw you a couple of hours ago, you could still see the pavement. That is no longer the case, and tomorrow could be shin deep there in Connecticut.
Yeah, and everyone's hoping for that, and I think that's exactly what we're going to see. Snowfall starting to pick back up again here in Hartford, and I'm looking at the radar, and it certainly is going to be interesting here over the next few hours, especially as we get into midnight and into the wee early morning hours. Hopefully there won't be many folks on the road, because that's when we expect the worst travel conditions, the heaviest snowfall rates. The bulk of this storm is going to happen overnight. Then we'll get a little bit of a lull, we think, in the morning, early on in the morning, and then things will ramp back up again later in the morning and into the early afternoon as colder air squeezes in more heavier bands of snow as our storm starts to push off the New England coast, all the while intensifying and even getting stronger, throwing more moisture into southern New England. So the 7-8 inch totals that we've seen in Pennsylvania and Maryland, we're going to see over double-digit totals here in southern parts of New England. That's likely to be the sweet spot. You know, you go up outside of Hartford by 20 minutes and you get into some higher elevations over 1,000 feet, and there you've got just enough colder air where you stay into that heavier snow for longer periods. You don't switch around between grapple and snow, huge fat flakes like we've seen at times here in Hartford. But snowfall is certainly picking up. We're also getting a little bit of a wind. Temperatures hovering around 31, 32 degrees. The ground surfaces themselves are cold. The surfaces have been treated, so that certainly helps. You can see those little circles that have melted things, so that means it's doing their job. In fact, driving in from the airport yesterday, you could see the pre-treatments going down. They were salting the roads, getting everything ready for the incoming storm. Sidewalks were salted, and we even had a little bit of sunshine earlier today. But once the snow started, it pretty much quickly accumulated once the rate of snow picked up. But look at this scene. This is Pratt Avenue on a quiet Saturday night. And Mike, I know it took some time for the snow to start. It was dry and delayed things a little bit. I know that's what's happening there. You're about to get in on some of this heavier snowfall like we're seeing here in Hartford too.
We are, and that's going to cause a problem tomorrow for this team. The gals from Stansted Hockey in Stansted, Quebec, which is right on the border with Derby Line, Vermont. We've got Coach K, we've got Matt here. Thanks for joining us. How did you gals do tonight?
Big win in overtime.
A one in overtime. Yeah. So you've played 3 and you've won 2.
Yes.
Now this is an interesting school because it's an international school, but what's your name again? Jaden. Now this girl crosses the border every day to go to school. Yeah. Now that's kind of cool. Yeah. Now how do you like the weather up in Quebec? I mean,
it's really cold.
Well, that's why you're good hockey players, right?
Yeah.
So talk about the drive back tomorrow to get back up through Vermont to Stansted.
Yeah, it's about a 3.5-hour drive. We have to go through the beautiful state of New Hampshire, through Vermont, right on the I-91. So hopefully the snow is nice to us tomorrow and we have safe travels.
And what time are you planning to leave?
We have a game tomorrow at 11:40, so we plan on packing up right after that. So hopefully we're on the road around 2 o'clock.
When you get farther up, it's going to get colder, and but there'll be less snowfall. So there's a trade-off there. What about next weekend? Where are you headed next weekend?
Lake Placid.
Lake Placid. That's pretty cool. Yeah. You know, they had the Olympics there in 1980. The famous. You know, do you believe in miracles? Well, gals, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And what were you going to say? There you go. Mike, Dr. Nab, driving 91 tomorrow through the snowstorm. We appreciate you stopping by. And I've been to the cool thing about Derby Line is the Haskell Free Library is there, and the library. Part of the library is in Canada, and part of the library is in the United States. I remember that from being there years ago. It's kind of a cool place. Yes. Yeah. Okay, thanks for joining us. We'll keep you updated. We'll be back here in Natick.
Massachusetts. Dr. Nab, in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Mike, and thank you to all the players for joining us. Safe travels tomorrow. Take it slow and allow extra time. And anybody, even someone who is winter weather savvy, can find themselves getting into danger if you aren't smart. So we've all got to, really take this storm seriously, and not just if you are at risk for some heavy snow. I want to talk a little bit about what's going to happen closer to the coast in southern and southeastern New England. What happens if you don't even get the heaviest snowfall? I mean, what if you are in this zone here? Boston down to Providence, getting close to Cape Cod and the islands. You've got some dangers to talk about as well, because we're going to have a strengthening low tomorrow as it's departing. So even after the low is at its closest point, the storm is not over. We've got a really strong jet here on the south side of this trough that is causing our surface low to begin strengthening as it is leaving the Jersey shore here. And it will be even more rapidly strengthening as we go into tomorrow afternoon. So we're going to have 2 rounds of heavy snow in a place like Hartford. Certainly overnight tonight as we get some frontogenesis on the north side of the low. But then as the low is departing tomorrow midday, we could have another round of heavy snow as the northeasterly to northerly winds bring a heavy band of snow in. So here's the heavy snow tonight. But then as the low gets closer, you bring that snow line a little farther inland, so we could get some rain near the coast. Providence to Boston could be rain or slushy mix. But then as the low goes just near southeastern New England, it will rapidly strengthen tomorrow during the day and into tomorrow night. So that brings the cold air back down to the coast. Anything that is liquid will refreeze rapidly by tomorrow night, and we could, in these northeasterly winds, have some banding and some heavy snow as the cold air in that northerly flow comes back down to the south. So that's why the winter weather advisories go all the way down to the coast of Connecticut and Rhode Island. So Boston down to Providence, going directly south of Boston, you could have slick roads even when the storm is over, and even if you didn't get all that much snow. And then there's the wind. As this low cranks up, going to, as usual, get 40 to 50 mile an hour winds here in southeastern New England, even as early as tomorrow morning. But as that low strengthens and moves off to the east, the winds will stay strong. So, Mike, when you have heavy, wet snow or some ice accumulation and strong winds, power outages are a distinct possibility.
Absolutely got to be something we keep our eye on, Dr. Neb. Thank you for that. We know that there's another storm coming in behind all this, right? That's going to be Winter Storm Finn. Are you ready for it? Already effects being felt on the west coast. We've got some pretty good snow that's coming down for us right now in California. And how about we had here? Yep, all kinds of fender benders, crashes. It's because of the issues we had in Truckee, California, unfortunately. So changes will be required at pass level. Great skiing for you up in the Tahoe area, but over the Donner Pass in Truckee, not great conditions. Probably going to see 10+ inches of snow and about 50-mile-per-hour winds. And then we'll show you a live picture there at Tahoe. Again, it has just been coming down for us today. Everything is coated in white right now. All right, so the storm's going to be on the move. And as it does, it's going to eventually push across the plains and eventually in the Midwest. And looking ahead to Chicago, are you ready Monday night into Tuesday night? Some pretty good snow for us, and there may be some enhancement off the lakes too. Here's what we know. It's going to bring some heavy snow and wind to the west. It's going to intensify tomorrow into Monday in the plains, and then some really good snow is expected for you early in the week across the Midwest. This low is really going to spin here in the four corners. It's going to get embedded in the deep trough here. This thing is really going to be potent here once it comes into the middle of the country and then really bombs out going into the Midwest. The coldest air comes in on the backside there with the snow. Warm air's on the front side. Heavy rain, even thunderstorms in our forecast. There's that low intensifying. You see how the isobars are really packed now, and that really means that we're going to see some intense wind and that snow that might be enhanced off of Lake Huron and off of Lake Michigan. So there'll be some spots there in Michigan and probably Wisconsin, Illinois, we're going to have some issues. Notice we've got a lot of winter storm warnings, advisories, winter storm watches then extend over into the plains here. And I think that these will likely be upgraded, some of them at least, upgraded to winter storm warnings. Just a timing thing more than anything else. I think tomorrow they'll probably go over to warnings, especially with 5 to 8 inches of snow in the forecast. In some places, maybe even a little bit more than that, maybe up to a foot or more across the mountains in New Mexico and then the Colorado Rockies. There's that low early in the week sitting over South Bend, Indiana. The heavy snowpath is going to be on the backside of that low, so heads up for you in Kansas City. Maybe portions of I-70, but Columbia, you get the snow. Des Moines, the Quad Cities. Chicago gets the snow, and then right up toward Milwaukee. These are all spots where the heavy snow is going to come down for you here. Really heavy snow there, heavy snow into New England as well. And the GFS model says, yep, something very similar we think is going to happen with that model. So a lot of snow coming now for the Midwest for the first time this season. We've had a little bit, Dr. Nab, not a ton. That's going to be a big one, especially when you factor in how much wind we're going to have with that system. But, there's also a lot of rain coming, too.
Oh, absolutely. So you showed the lack of snow along the I-95 corridor. So it's going to be much farther inland as compared to Ember that has taken this kind of track. But watch the track of the low associated with Winter Storm Finn coming out of the plains here, rapidly strengthening in the lee of the Rockies. And as it strengthens, it brings a lot more moisture and instability north off the Gulf of Mexico than did Ember because it was down in here. And that strengthening low is going to strengthen the low-level jet, which enhances the low-level wind shear that causes rotating updrafts. Deep layer shear with the big trough will organize the thunderstorms, and we're going to have all modes of severe weather at risk all the way up into southern portions of Arkansas, well up into Mississippi. So a lot of real estate at risk, and you could have some tornadoes that then spreads eastward as that cold front slides across the southeast with the low going into the Great Lakes, and could have some heavy rain along the way coming up into the Appalachians and in some of the metro areas like Charlotte or Raleigh. But the other thing that's going to happen here is that the high that is behind Ember is going to allow for temperatures near freezing, clear skies on Tuesday morning. But then as the low comes into the Midwest, Tuesday afternoon and evening, the moisture, the warmth comes northward. We're going to be pushing 60 degrees along the I-95 corridor Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. Those warmer temperatures could melt the snow, but you add the rain. That's why we got the significant flood risk along with more coastal flooding and maybe even damaging winds. Mike, I-95 is going to be rocking from Finn.
It will, Dr. Neb. Thank you. Well, from coast to coast, everywhere in between. You can download the TWC streaming app. You can find updated alerts for storms as the forecast changes. You can go to streamtwc.com to get it for Roku, Amazon Fire, and Google TV.
I'm meteorologist Chris Bruin here in Hartford, where we're in between moderate to heavy snow, and the heaviest snow will be overnight tonight, where we could easily get a half foot of snow or more through central and northern Connecticut. It is amazing how quickly we went from bare ground to a winter wonderland. In fact, look at the folks just kind of coming out, playing with the dogs. Look at that. I think this perfectly describes the scene here in New England. Excitement, joy. It is wintertime after all, and we've had some cold nights, but we haven't had a good snowstorm, and that's what we have here tonight. We're expecting anywhere from 6 to 10 inches by the time all is said and done. I think a good chunk of that will fall through the overnight hours and into the early morning. We may have a break or two as our storm kind of reforms and intensifies as it pulls away from New England, and then the cold air will create some more banding that could come through later in the morning and throughout the early afternoon on Sunday here across southern New England. So we could squeak out another 2 to 4 inches from that alone. So that could bring our overall storm total up into the double digits, around 10 inches. And in some spots in northern Connecticut, western Massachusetts, we could see over a foot of snow. The entire winter last season, we only saw 24 inches, and we average about 50 inches in a year. So to get about half of that in one storm is pretty good. Locals here said it's been a few years since they've seen a snowstorm of this magnitude, and you can bet they're all very excited and certainly will be out playing in it.
Chris, thanks very much for that. Really appreciate the report. Let's show you what's going on with the storm and what we know right now. Airlines warning folks, you got to be prepared for some flight delays and cancellations tomorrow. Amtrak also modifying its schedule because of the winter storm. And New York has deployed more than 1,600 large plow trucks statewide in order to keep those roads clear. Is it going to be a travel headache for a lot of you here in the Northeast, and it's going to be a slow go. Maybe the best thing that could happen here is it's happening on a weekend. So as far as commuting goes, that's not as big a deal. But for you air travelers, it's going to be tough, that's for sure. There are actually a lot of flights in the air right now, really centered around New York. Luckily, all rain right now. It's not slick conditions on the runways. We've had rain in Boston, also one of the busier airports right now. But so far, so good. And plenty of flights are flying, although the winds really pick up tomorrow, which I think adds a whole new element to travel, especially in the air across the Northeast. No major airport delays right now, more than 15 minutes, so green means go. And I think tomorrow becomes a bigger problem for, especially at Logan, is that low sits off the coast, intensifies, the winds really pick up, snowfall rates could be pretty intense in portions of coastal New England here, but we think moderate to medium impact in a lot of places here in the Northeast, and visibility may be one of the key factors there that goes with the wind. As far as the forecast tomorrow morning, heavy snow with wind in Boston, about 36. Snowing for you in New York, but you're on the tail end of the event. It's going to be moving out for you. Scranton, Albany snow, Burlington snow, and we'll have the snow that lingers back here around the Great Lakes as well. So heads up on the interstates, I think I-95, I-81, those are hot spots for snow. I-84, I think probably the worst is probably going to be around I-95 here. I think like Boston to Portsmouth up toward Portland is going to get pretty rough for you here. Same thing for you in the afternoon. Snowing pretty hard in Boston, Burlington, we have the snow. Could get that mix now in New York, and still snowing for you back across the Ohio Valley as well. In the evening, still snow there in Boston, all right? You're the last to see it end, about 28 degrees. Could be snowing pretty good for you in Erie, Pittsburgh, anywhere between Cleveland and maybe the south towns of Buffalo could get some good snow there. Here's what's happening right now. You can see where some of the heavier bands are right in here. So I'd say Poughkeepsie, you've had several hours of heavier snow. You're going to see that snow lift north here. I don't think it'll be long before a place like Albany gets some pretty good snow. Could get another band that comes through Hartford, and I think in the Berkshires, we're really going to accentuate that snow because the heavy band is moving in your direction, not to mention you've actually got some elevation there that plays a factor as well. So it could be some big winners there in places like western Connecticut or the Berkshires there in Massachusetts. Dr. Knabb, you know, knowing the forecast, though, kind of hour by hour here and what you may wake up to is a whole different matter.
Yeah, and that band that you just talked about, you have Binghamton to Albany, let's time out for those cities because that's where you've got the really heavy snowfall rates moving through on the north side of this low, where a few thousand feet up in the atmosphere, got a frontal genesis setting up there. Adding to the lift, adding to the snowfall rates as cold and warm air really collide there. You can see that darker shade there on the banding. And let's go up here into the Scranton to Binghamton corridor in here, northeastern PA. And this is where we're getting reports. Waymart got snowfall up to 8 inches now. And this heavy snow is spreading northward and eastward. And in Binghamton, you're going to have the heaviest snow going through this evening. Then you get a relative lull in snow, but then you'll have a pretty steady several hours of snow on the backside of this system to just kind of gradually add to the totals into tomorrow morning, into midday tomorrow before the snow finally lets up. So it won't be like the front end of the storm has been, but there will be another 2, 3, 4 inches of snow to come. But let's go east from there, where the snowfall totals from this point forward will be a good bit heavier. 5 to 8 inches maybe in the Capital District zone. And again, 2 rounds of heavy snow continuing overnight tonight, a relative low, maybe a little bit of an uptick midday tomorrow. And then you're going to have the snowfall rates pretty high in Connecticut and Massachusetts overnight tonight as well.
The power of the Weather Channel, now available to everyone.
This is epic!
Trusted live coverage when it matters most is now yours to stream with the Weather Channel TV app. Real-time radar, maps that let you track all the action, and so much more. Available now on these platforms. Go to streamtwc.com to start your free 7-day trial.
Welcome back to Natick, Massachusetts. Meteorologist Mike Seidel. We've got wet snow and a cold rain right now. Temperatures are running about 35 degrees here. We've all gone up a couple of degrees. You can see some wet flakes flying right now. Logan Airport, 37 light rain. Worcester, 31 in snow. So again, it's all about the temperatures tonight and tomorrow. I don't think Boston is going to get down to freezing, so that's going to keep the accumulations lower and lower the impacts in the morning. But whatever falls tomorrow, wherever you are, whatever's left over, it's going to freeze, because late tomorrow afternoon, temperatures are going to be falling through the 20s, and once that sun goes down around 4:30, that's it. Everything is going to just lock in, and so I think the dicier road conditions for many of you will be on Monday morning, because tomorrow's Sunday. There's a lot of folks not working. There's no school. And then you have to get out on Monday early when temperatures in the teens and low 20s and deal with the ice and the frozen snow. We've got the snow sticks out. They put these out ahead of the storm. And, you know, they haven't had much snow. Last year, Boston had about 12, which it seems like, well, that's a decent amount of snow. But the average almost 50. And that's the fourth least snowiest season on record. So it's not going to snow this much. Trust me, I can guarantee you. If it does, that'll be quite the surprise in the morning. But we should see at least 6 inches out here where we are off 95 and the Mass Pike. Higher amounts beyond this out to Worcester, and then up around the loop up towards Lowell and certainly the New Hampshire line, and then lower amounts in the city, and then south towards Plymouth. And if you're watching us from the Cape and the Islands, expect little, if any, accumulation. So, Mike, eventually this will become all snow, because a cold rain is not fun to stand in. And tomorrow we'll be back on the air in Natick late morning, and we'll have a whole different picture. We'll be in the square in town. Hope to find the kids out sledding and making snowballs for the first time in a while in this part of Massachusetts.
They'll be very excited to do it, that's for sure. Mike, appreciate that. Thank you very much. Winter Storm Ember, it will not be the only game in town, though. On the heels of that, we'll have Winter Storm Finn. It certainly means a fresh layer of snow across the plains, rain, a ton of it across the south and northeast. That happens on top of today's snow, by the way. Now, from Houston to Florida, there could be a threat of severe storms as well. Let's get some more details on that with our expert, Dr. Rick Knabb.
Yeah, Mike, this is going to be a low pressure system with Finn that takes a much different path than what we saw with Ember. This is the middle and upper level trough out west that's going to cause the formation of that low in the lee of the Rockies that will cause a much more expansive severe weather risk. On the warm side of Winter Storm Finn, its cold side certainly going to have an effect in the Four Corners region, but also extending out into the plains, where we've got winter storm watches up for Monday and Tuesday up in Kansas City, where we could get 5 to 8 inches of snowfall by the time we get to the middle of the week. And there could be some really strong winds that cause blizzard conditions when you drop the visibilities with this large and strong of a low pressure system forming a lot farther north and west than Ember did. Ember's surface low formed down here near the coast of Louisiana and came up in this direction to take that path to create a nor'easter tonight and tomorrow. But that's not what Finn's going to do. It's going to form here in the Central Plains a lot sooner, a lot farther inland, a lot farther north and west than with Ember. And that path is going to bring a lot more moisture inland from the Gulf of Mexico Monday night into Tuesday. And that's why the severe weather risk is as expansive as it is. A lot more of you at risk for severe with Finn than with Ember, and that will continue into Tuesday. As that low goes into the Great Lakes, then you're going to have gusty winds and snow, perhaps affecting a lot of big cities, not just Kansas City, but go northeastward from there. Chicago is in the mix for some heavy snow. Could, say, Lafayette or Indianapolis get some heavy snow. You notice we're going to shut out the I-95 corridor because of the interior path of that low. And with that low in the Great Lakes, it's going to take its cold front across the southeast, and you're going to have the severe risk going all the way up into Georgia and the Carolinas. Today it was just in Florida. The other thing about Finn is with the size and strength of this low, starting off on Tuesday morning under that high, it's clear, it's below freezing, it's dry. But northward moving moisture and warmth ahead of the low with Finn is potentially going to cause strong to even damaging winds in the big cities of the Northeast and more coastal flooding in the coast of New Jersey and Long Island, southeastern Massachusetts than Ember is doing. So coastal flooding, strong winds, and with all of that rain falling on top of Ember snow, we could have rain-induced and snow melt-induced flooding, especially up here along the I-95 corridor. So that is going to be a big story with Finn next week. Not so much about snow along I-95, but about wind and both freshwater and saltwater flooding.
Watch the Weather Channel for continuing coverage of Winter Storm Ember. Get trusted updates on the storm on the Weather Channel and the Weather Channel TV app.
Yes, it has been a busy day of snowfall in the state of Pennsylvania. I'm coming to you from Scranton, where we've been seeing some pretty good snow since about 1 to 2 o'clock, but the snowfall rates have really picked up this evening, and you can actually see that. We've been looking at this consistent, heavy, I'm going to call it pancake snow. Open up your mouth and try to catch these flakes, because they are some big ones coming down, and this is what's going to actually help get us maybe to that 4, 5, 6+ inches. And in the valley here, in Susquehanna Valley, or technically speaking in this greater valley area, we could be looking at those rates to give us anywhere from that 4 to 6 inches total by tomorrow. Now, I want to show you the roads real quick, because the plows have been doing a good job out on the highways. We have been looking and seeing some wrecks, but in the city, you've got the slush factor. So tomorrow morning, I am anticipating it to be pretty icy for folks that are maybe going to church in the morning or trying to do anything early tomorrow. We will still have snow in the forecast, but it should be tapering off. Now, looking ahead, for folks that are going to be out and about tomorrow, be careful on the roads. Enjoy your sled day. Of course, many schools, they're either back in session or they go back in session the next week, so this is kind of fun leading into that. But then we have the next system, which is going to throw a huge curveball our way, because all this snow that you're seeing here is eventually going to melt. It's going to be a warmer system. I'm talking Winter Storm Finn. That's going to produce several inches of rainfall, and we could be looking at a localized flood threat here. So while it's here, enjoy the snow, because it's been a couple of years since we've seen a good storm like this. Coming to you from Scranton, Pennsylvania, I'm Jordan Steele. Back to you.
All right, that has been a hot spot for some snow. Has been there in the Lehigh Valley. We're going to end up getting some pretty good snow there, but it's gonna end here before long. But the heavier snow is now going to roll its way into New England. A lot of you here are going to get half a foot of snow or more. Some of the banding that we're getting now from the Hudson Valley up through, I think, the Berkshires is going to be a pretty good stuff here. Driving along I-95, I think from Boston to Portsmouth to Portland is going to be interesting for you. Then along 87, certainly from Poughkeepsie to Albany, and then northbound from there is going to be all snow for you tonight and tomorrow morning. Notice how cold it gets, though, by the way. Once you get up toward the Canadian border here, temperatures are in the teens. So you got temperatures that are about 20 degrees colder here than they are down in like a New York City or out on Long Island. What's that, 40 now? It's gotten warmer in East Hampton and Brookhaven, so zero chance you're getting any snow here. You have to wait to the very tail end of this storm to get your snow, and at that point it's going to be pretty light because you're just on the fringe of the storm at that point. The snow's already letting up for you now in Scranton, not even reporting snow right now. Are reporting some freezing rain in Williamsport, and the temperature at 31. So it's falling as rain, and then it's freezing on contact with the ground, so you might be getting a glaze there in Williamsport. Be very, very careful. How about some snow reports that we've seen? A lot of snow reports. All these blue dots with the snowflakes in them. Those are the snow reports we've seen. 4 inches, 4.5 inches. But I think tomorrow you'll see a lot of reports of 7, 8, 9, 10 inches of snow. And so some of the reports that you see today will pale in comparison. Let's just put it that way. Again, 2, 3, 4 inches of snow in some of these spots, but it's only really just beginning in some locations. 7.5 inches in Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania. 7 inches for you in Cumberland, Maryland. Hightown, Virginia. 7 inches of snow there. That's really been the sweet spot for snow throughout the afternoon and evening, but that's translating over towards, say, the tri-state area and more towards southern New England than it is right now in places like, say, the mountains of West Virginia, or into Maryland. All right, we certainly know that the roads in New York at times getting a little messy for us. Crews are out there spreading some salt in anticipation of Ember. Now, the real concern is really what happens next for us. North of the city, yes, you're getting the snow. South, pretty much all rain event for us. So Dr. Knapp, as we get through this over the next 24 hours, low intensifies. A lot of places are going to see very changing weather in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, so don't be fooled by the low passing by and thinking, okay, tomorrow morning we get a lull in the snow, it's ending. The afternoon is going to crank up in southeastern New England, and that has a lot of ramifications that we need to talk through. It's so much more complicated than just looking at who's going to get the heavy snow and say, okay, well, that's where the biggest problems are going to be. What about Boston down to Providence? What about closer to the coasts of Connecticut and Rhode Island? What's the message there? Well, don't get out on the roads tomorrow afternoon and evening. That's one important message, because this low, as it strengthens, it's going to cause heavy snow and some flash freeze to make the roads dangerous in southeastern New England tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. Because that low is going to strengthen. Why? Because we have so much energy in this trough that's in the eastern half of the U.S., more energy coming in from the Midwest, and a strong jet stream that is going to interact with the surface low and cause it to strengthen even more rapidly than it has been. It's down way into the 990s millibars, well below 1,000 millibars as it's offshore of New Jersey right now, but that is only the beginning of its strengthening. And because it's going to strengthen tomorrow afternoon as it's leaving, we're going to have another uptick in the snow late morning into midday in a place like Hartford after we get the heavy snow late tonight. So that lull tomorrow morning, don't be fooled by that. So watch how, as the surface low gets closer after tonight's heavy snow, then you get a lull in the snowfall rates and maybe the snow line coming back inland a little bit. So maybe some rain and slush from Boston down to Providence, and you might think, well, okay, this is ending, but watch what happens. The low then pretty quickly strengthens just as it's skirting by southeastern New England, and that brings the cold air from the northeast and the north to bring heavier snow from a stronger low. So that's your second bout of heavy snow, and then the cold air comes down, and whatever liquid there was from the rain that fell, that's going to refreeze and cause a flash freeze. That's why you've got winter weather advisories all the way down to the coasts of Connecticut and Rhode Island. Stay off the roads tomorrow afternoon and evening. All the dangers continue tomorrow, and so does our special live coverage of Winter Storm Ember. We've got our teams all up and down the eastern part of the northern U.S. there, well up into New England, to take you through the storm and keep you safe. Stay with us.
Welcome back once again in Natick, Massachusetts. Mike Seidel here with the winter storm and the wet snowfall right now, mixing with some rain. Yes, I know the winds are kind of east, and that's why Boston's raining, and I think that's why the temperatures here have held above freezing. But overnight tonight, we should turn more northeasterly, and the colder air will come in. So no doubt that tomorrow morning it'll look a lot different than it does right now. Still expecting upwards of 6+ inches of snow here in the Natick-Framingham area. More north and west, less south and east. The city of Boston, at least several inches of snow. But again, temperatures there may not get down to freezing during the entire storm, and that's going to cut down on the total accumulations in the city itself, and certainly south down the South Shore, down to the Cape and Islands and the South Coast. Logan Airport has canceled, the airlines have canceled about 150 flights. Cape Air, the regional air carrier, has canceled just about every flight on their schedule. So check ahead, because there'll probably be at least a few more cancellations, no doubt, and flight delays with the snow tomorrow and the de-icing underway. So Mike Bettis waiting for the ground to whiten up here in Natick. He says with confidence it will happen overnight tonight, and I'll be probably looking out of my hotel room window like a little kid about every hour to see how things are standing here. And we'll be back on the air later Sunday morning from Natick.
That's okay. It's going to happen, Mike. Don't you worry. It's going to happen. We feel pretty good about the forecast. Don't you worry. And we could also talk about what's going to come after this, because we know that a lot of what falls is eventually going to melt, Dr. Nab, because we'll have severe weather across the south and then eventually heavy rain across that snow in the northeast.
Yeah, the effects of Winter Storm Finn on the I-95 corridor could be pretty bad without having any snow.
Ember's going to be pretty short-lived. I mean, the effects of it aren't going to last more than another couple days.
No, and we've all, Ember did produce some severe weather. We had that today. Check out the tornado that moved through the Fort Lauderdale metro area. It was out where you'll go out east on Las Olas Boulevard away from downtown Fort Lauderdale, go out to Fort Lauderdale Beach. It was out there that the tornado moved across. You could see the flashes there of it striking some electrical equipment. Fire crews say there doesn't appear to be any major damage, no injuries reported, but that is quite a scary sight. And unfortunately, the risk is greater for a lot more of you to experience severe weather ahead of Winter Storm Finn as we get into Monday and Tuesday, because this is going to take a very different track than has the low of Winter Storm Ember that was so far south and east that Florida was the only state really that was at risk for severe weather. But watch what happens with the low associated with Winter Storm Finn. It forms a lot sooner, becomes a lot stronger, and is a lot farther inland and north and west than Ember's low down here. So that means a lot of moisture and instability is coming a lot farther inland in the southern U.S. off the Gulf of Mexico, and that strengthening low is going to really enhance the low-level jet to produce low-level wind shear that could cause rotating updrafts, supercells, and embedded rotation in lines of storms that could produce damaging winds, large hail, tornadoes. Look at how far north that risk goes Monday night into Tuesday morning. And when you've got a front like this, you get the surface winds coming out of the east-southeast. You go a few thousand feet up, you get south-southwesterly winds. That change of wind shear with height is what causes the rotating updrafts, and that deep layer shear is going to organize the storms along and ahead of that front. So that's why all the hazards are in play. As that whole system moves eastward, the surface low going up toward the Great Lakes, but the warm sector is going to remain down here in the southeast, and all of those parameters that were in effect Monday and Monday night will continue in the southeast on Tuesday and Tuesday night. Could have some localized heavy rain and flooding, but look at how far north that severe weather risk goes Tuesday and Tuesday night. And that flood risk goes up into the Appalachians. But Mike, the other thing is how large and strong Finn is going to be. It could have damaging winds, coastal flooding in the northeast that's much greater than Ember's been producing. And then there's the rain on top of Ember's snowfall.
It's going to be a lot of flooding, we believe, potentially here. But you think about the rain that's going to fall in the snow, or places where it's rained heavily today that get more rain in the coming days, right? So flash flooding is going to be top of mind in a lot of these places for sure. If I'm going to show you a map, I think that's very, very interesting. It's the 1-hour flash flood guidance, and that shows a real hot spot here, especially northern New Jersey, then back into, say, the Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania. In some places here, it'll take less than an inch in an hour. We easily get that, but some places it's even less than that. Some places it's half an inch or less in an hour to cause some flooding. So this is why we have the concerns, all right? We're getting a lot of runoff, unfortunately. There's the low sitting right over the Ozarks going into Tuesday morning. It's really starting to bomb out here. Becomes very intense. A lot of wind with this. You saw the snow. You see the rain now. Notice the rain as it marches into the northeast. More of us get rain than end up getting snow because the temperatures are warming so dramatically across the northeast. Again, the low sit back in here. That warm air really surges northbound. So you've got to go up to probably northern New England to get any snow, but even that starts to get eaten away by some of the rain here. The flooding threat will be there Tuesday into Wednesday, and likely going to include the areas that we just showed you where we have high flash flood guidance right there in northern New Jersey. Well, because of our live storm coverage tonight, you are probably expecting to see a brand new episode of Highway Through Hell. We're going to move that, though, to next Sunday at 8 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock, you're going to see 2 back-to-back episodes of Earth Unlocked. Again, that's all moving to next Sunday, January 14th.